No. No.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Breakdown Podcast. My name is Brandon Miracle. If you look below me in the video version of the podcast, you'll see the beautiful face of Paul Anderson.
Howdy.
In case you were unsure, he's the one in the red hat with the wooden background. Do I need to be any more clear? And if you look this way in the video podcast, you'll see the beautiful face of our friend Logan.
Hello.
This is the second episode of the Breakdown Podcast. If you joined us last week, we talked about our favorite anime, movies, video games, and everything that we did last week. So that's what we're going to do this week.
Whoa.
Just a couple of things that we're going to be talking about here in the future. We'll be talking about the future of Nintendo in 2018. We'll be talking about some of the movies we watched over the past week, such as Black Panther and Looking for Ms. Locklear. Some of the anime that we've been watching, one big one that Paul and I are really big fans of, Shokugeki no Soma, and we'll be talking about a project that I'll be working on starting right after the show's over today, so look forward to that. Just to get us started, you can find us on our little Twitter handles right below our camera names. You can find us on the Break Room Arcade at Twitter in the bottom right corner. And after the broadcast is over, probably an hour or two later, you'll be able to find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. We are available on podcast services from now on.
And more.
And more. So to kick things off, I watched Drive for the first time over the last week. For those of you who don't know, I'm a big fan of Ryan Gosling. And
you haven't seen that before?
No, that was my first time.
I could have sworn we watched it
I'm
together.
actually really surprised that you haven't.
I'd never seen Drive before.
I'm so sorry we failed you.
I knew about Drive. I knew about Drive before I knew about Ryan Gosling. I actually watched it with my wife, and I watched it with Devin, who's a friend of the show. That movie is just so impressive. It's a little strange seeing that film after having seen Baby Driver, which kind of follows a pretty similar plot structure, though they're two very different movies. Drive is a much darker film overall. Ryan Gosling is absolutely fantastic in that movie.
He's a beautiful man.
In the second half of the film, you get to see like a really dark, gritty, just cutthroat Ryan Gosling. He plays the part so well. There's one part where he's like hovering over a woman with a knife, and he's talking super calmly to her, but it's the most menacing and threatening thing. If you don't tell me the things that I need to know, I'm gonna hurt you. Just so casual, so quiet, but oh, so cool. I absolutely loved it. One thing that I was really surprised about is because Drive is a movie about a guy who is a getaway driver who's also at some point going to be a race car driver who also has the ability to fix cars pretty well. So you see like all these different aspects of the way he drives, and how they kind of intertwine and become like the cornerstone of his life. I thought that was pretty neat. But the surprising thing is like you don't actually see a whole lot of him doing the getaway driving. There's an instance in the beginning of the movie where you see him do like a heist, and then you don't see him do it again until like the last act of the movie. I just thought that was really cool. If you look at Baby Driver, it's just heist. So it's a really neat contrast. You get to see a lot more about Ryan Gosling's character just as a regular person outside of his crime life. And you really grow an appreciation for him, even though you know he's kind of a bad person. There's also all these
Seeing him interact
things
with the other characters is like very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Going with your comparison to like Baby Driver, one of the things that like first struck me when I watched that the first time was the use of music. And it's not quite to Baby Driver's level. I don't think they necessarily put as much into like choreographing like everything that's going on to the music.
Mm-hmm.
But that movie has such a beautiful soundtrack that I love so much that I haven't bought it, but it's been on my list of like movie soundtracks to buy since I watched it.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to pick up the movie at least. The soundtrack didn't stand out to me as much as you. I think it more played just kind of its backing role to me than it did anything else.
It sets the tone really well.
Yeah.
It's not quite as and here's the thing, I haven't seen like Baby Driver, but I am aware of how like integrated the soundtrack is into that experience. And whereas the soundtrack in Drive is much more just creating an atmosphere for this movie to exist within.
Yeah. Got to give a real big shout out to Ryan Gosling. Stellar performance as usual. I've seen Ryan Gosling in several movies now. This is going to be a contender probably for one of my favorite roles I've seen him in.
That man's got range.
Yeah, he does. I can't wait to see where his career goes going forward. I think he's doing a movie soon where he plays an astronaut. And as Ryan Gosling's #1 man crush fan, I'll be first in line to see that.
Sci-fi and Ryan Gosling.
It's like a beautiful little mesh of ideas and things. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Drive. Paul and I watched a movie together. Was that last weekend or the weekend before?
That was last weekend, I think. Saturday?
My sense of time is like gone. Yeah, so we've recently become fans of Rhett and Link.
We're mythical beasts.
We are mythical beasts now. So I was watching an episode of Good Mythical Morning just kind of out of curiosity one day, and I was like, man, this is really fun. And I was like, Paul, Rhett and Link have a morning show. You should watch it. And he was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. And then we've been watching it ever since.
It helps that, like, every morning I'm struggling to find something to do at work. And so it just feels like the first hour when I get into the office, I sit at my computer, I watch Rhett and Link, and I get ready for the day. It's the best way to start the morning.
Yeah, they upload their episodes every morning at like 6 a.m., whatever their time is. Pacific, I think.
I mean, it's up there way before I even get into work at 6. So
yeah, and it's always there. It's like a 3-segment show, almost half an hour long. Hello in the chat. And, you know, they just it's really interesting because, you know, I work in the news business, and for the first, I want to say 6 months of my career, I spent working on the morning show. So getting to see a morning show that just kind of has no rules and kind of does whatever it wants, it's really fun. Rhett and Link, you know, they just kind of do whatever comes to mind. Whatever the mythical crew decides they're going to do that day, they're always game for it. Well, they're usually game for it.
I mean, they're spectacular at doing things that, like, you know that they don't want to.
Yeah.
They just do it anyway because they're committed to us, the fans.
They are. You know, Link is a really picky eater, and he has to eat cockroaches and all other kinds of substances that he doesn't know what they are before he eats them. And it's always funny. It's never not funny. So Rhett and Link, they met in first grade, and they were brought together by their first grade teacher, Ms. Locklear. And they kind of attribute their entire careers to that encounter with their teacher. So about 10 years ago, maybe a little earlier, they came together and they made a documentary called Looking for Ms. Locklear. And the premise of Looking for Ms. Locklear is that they are going to search for their first grade teacher, who they haven't seen since, you know, they were in the first grade. But the way that they're going to do it is without using internet sources. They're only going to be searching via word of mouth. So they met strangers. They had asked them if they knew Ms. Locklear, and it's basically that journey. And you meet some of the craziest cats in this movie.
Just to give you some context here, they're from, I think, South Carolina, North Carolina.
I think South. I could be wrong.
That sounds right to me, but I don't remember 100%.
It's one of those.
I mean, it's a really, really small town. And so as you can imagine, going from person to person in this small community, you meet really interesting people. And, like, the best thing about this movie was that they make an impact. Like, they left an impression. I will not forget most of those characters for as long as I live.
Yeah, like I think the first person they meet is I think his name is Sam, and
Sam.
he doesn't look like he's all there. They basically show up to this guy's house and they're like, "Can you help us find our first grade teacher, Miss Locklear?" And he sees the camera, and basically, dude just starts playing to the camera. You know, he starts dancing, telling him about how he used to be a singer and how he's got records.
He had a hit in a European country, I think.
Yeah. And then he comes up with this great idea, this absolutely stunning, unbelievable idea to help them find their first grade teacher. He says, I got these puppies. We're going to put these puppies in my pickup truck, and we're going to drive down to each house, and we're going to give people the puppies. And he just kind of stops there. And Rhett and Link really don't know what to do with that. So we're gonna drive to house to house, and we're gonna give people puppies, and then we're gonna ask them about Ms. Locklear. It's a great idea.
And then the most like unsafe way to go about it too. Rhett's in the bed of the pickup truck, and my favorite was Link was on a lawnmower on a trailer being pulled by the pickup truck.
And it's just like every time you stop to think about how all of this was true to life, this is just what happened to them while they were on this journey. It really sets the stage for a really fun, surprisingly heartfelt film about them searching for their first grade teacher. It's only available in standard definition. You can rent it on Amazon. You can also buy it on DVD. But even if you're not like fans of Rhett and Link, I think there's a lot to love about this movie. It's really sweet, and it's only about an hour and a half long. It didn't seem that long when we watched it.
No.
So I would highly recommend that to someone who's looking to have a good feel for like an hour or two.
It's a documentary, so I mean, you don't necessarily. It's a Rhett and Link documentary. I think that should sell it.
Yeah, that pretty much sets the bar right exactly where you expect it to be. So definitely check that out. Okay, I talked about what I watched. What did anybody else watch?
I didn't watch a ton this week. I mostly just kind of like I worked a lot this week, so I just spent a lot of time, playing games and doing some other projects to get ready for specifically this.
We've all been in that same exact boat.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
I did. I don't know. I know there's one thing that I watched that we all watched, and then we're all waiting to talk about.
We'll get to that.
Right. Is there anything that you've watched, Paul, specifically?
The only thing that I've watched outside of looking for Miss Locklear was I went back and watched Avengers Age of Ultron. I'm getting to a point where I started fusing Age of Ultron with Civil War. And like I couldn't differentiate them. And Civil War I saw like 3 or 4 times since theaters, where Age of Ultron, the last time I saw it, was when it was in theaters. And so I figured, hey, it is time to go back and remember what this movie is about. And it actually surprised me because I kind of like, I assumed that since I hadn't seen it since it was in theaters, that it wasn't like as good as Civil War. But like a lot of the humor and character interactions are fantastic. Like it's a really solid film, more solid than I remember it being. And I didn't think it would hold up after Civil War, but it really does.
Yeah, to be honest, I honestly have not seen the movie since I saw it in theaters myself. I hardly remember it, to be completely honest. There's only like 2 scenes in my mind that I can remember, and that's the Avengers sitting around drinking, and I remember a big like part of town suspended in air, maybe.
Yeah. I like one thing that threw me off is I remember that fight with like Hulk and the Hulkbuster Iron Man armor.
Oh yeah.
Being in Civil War.
Oh no, Hulk's not even in Civil War.
Yeah, I've seen that fight so many times, like beyond Age of Ultron, thanks to Greenville College and their audio department doing like replacing the sound effects in that fight. And so like I remember that fight, and that's like probably the most prominent memory I have from Age of Ultron until now.
Yeah, I didn't see Age of Ultron in theaters. I watched it at a later point. And honestly, like you could probably tell me something that happened in Age of Ultron, and I'd be like, okay, well, I remember that. But like sitting here, like I can't really remember what exactly happened. I know certain things that happened in Civil War because I really enjoyed Civil War. But Age of Ultron just kind of seems like
A forgettable film.
it seems really forgettable, especially in light of some of the more recent Marvel films, most notably Thor Ragnarok. I absolutely love that film. I loved I mean, and it's I don't know, it's what I expected, specifically from that director, who previously directed one of my favorite films of all time, which is What We Do in the Shadows, right? Taika Waititi or something like that. But he's a fantastic director. He's got a great sense of humor, and that really showed through Thor Ragnarok. So I mean, just in comparison,
I feel like Age of Ultron, like it has a harder time because you have more characters that you're dealing with, versus like Thor. It's easier because I guess Thor did have kind of a bigger cast. They've definitely like expanded, but you have a lot of really big names that you need to have that's, you know, front and center screen time, and you have to kind of cycle through that and balance that. And Age of Ultron does that incredibly well. It's just, I don't know. I think it definitely got overshadowed by titles that came after.
Yeah, it's like it couldn't really find its footing. It couldn't find its identity. You know, Civil War, there's that idea, and it's you know, Civil War at its heart is a Captain America movie. And it really sells that. It's like, okay, this is a story about Captain America and what he's doing. Thor Ragnarok, obviously, it's like, oh, Thor, and it's also just a really, really unique entry within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah, I just felt like Age of Ultron, it almost felt like it couldn't really stand on its own when I watched it. That's one thing I remember walking away from watching that movie and just feeling like, you know, I feel like I wouldn't have any reason to watch this movie if it hadn't been for all of these other movies previously.
Age of Ultron kind of reminds me of the similar feelings I have with The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Which to me is a very forgettable game, and I'm sorry if you love Twilight Princess. I think it's a great game. It's just in the same vein as Age of Ultron. It doesn't do anything unique enough to set it apart from its predecessor, the original Avengers movie, the original Ocarina of Time. Because Twilight Princess is just Ocarina of Time again, and in my mind, Age of Ultron is just Avengers again, instead of being anything more wholly unique. Then again, it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, and again, in a similar vein, it had been a long time since I played Twilight Princess. So playing Twilight Princess on the Wii U, I gained a better appreciation for that game, because I got to play it again, remind myself of the things I did love about it, and maybe I'll have that experience if I watch Age of Ultron again soon. I
think you will. I think it definitely, like, despite being kind of that forgettable Marvel film, it does it's a group. Sorry, I gotta collect my thoughts here. It's still solid. Like, the character interactions, despite having to balance all these major stars, it does it surprisingly well.
Yeah, it's not a bad movie. It's just it might be too familiar. Is its problem. Like Logan said, when you look at Civil War is a really standout point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, just because it's the only movie like it. You could almost call it an Avengers movie, and I think it does Avengers better than maybe Age of Ultron did the first time.
I would definitely agree with that, especially since I couldn't differentiate the two in my mind.
Yeah. And I think things will get better. We're looking at Infinity War, and Infinity War definitely seems like it's going to be the Avengers movie. Hopefully that doesn't fall short. I don't think it will. Yeah, I think you've inspired me to go back and rewatch Age of Ultron, Paul.
Please do. Please do.
I feel like, I don't know, I kind of fell out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as of late, and there's actually still a few more of the recent movies that I haven't watched. But I feel like, you know, having this conversation's made me more intrigued. Like, maybe I should just gather up a list of all the movies and kind of just, you know, over a period of time, just kind of rework through them and figure out how I feel about them. Because, I mean, definitely, I think with Thor Ragnarok got me really excited about the universe again. And then with that trailer that they dropped not too long ago for Infinity War, that was also like, oh wow, I'm like really excited. And then I know there's Spider-Man Homecoming, which honestly should have been a movie that I've already seen.
We
now.
should have watched it when you were here. I have it on Blu-ray.
I know.
We're failing you, man. I'm so sorry, Logan.
Awful. And that's funny because like I sat down with myself the other day and I had a talk. I said, Logan, who's your favorite superhero? And I had to really clarify this. Is Spider-Man, hands down, is my favorite superhero. I don't know what it is. I think, it's partially that feeling of he's not too overpowered, and I think that's true for most superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
But he's kind of like, he's generally this kid. He's younger. He's witty. He's funny. Also, the web slinging, and I think this honestly goes back mostly to the fact that in 2003, 2004, when the Spider-Man 2 movie tie-in video game came out on PS2, Xbox, and GameCube, I played the heck out of that game, and you'll hear me talk about it again and again and again. This won't be the first time I mention this game because that is like one of the most formative video game experiences I've ever had is with that game. So Spider-Man's like one of my favorites. So it doesn't make sense, honestly, that I haven't seen Spider-Man Homecoming.
Sounds like
because it's my favorite freaking superhero.
Honestly, I'd say right now is the time to kind of go back and kind of watch through all those movies from start to finish. I mean, it's been 10 years now, right?
Yeah, they just had their 10-year a couple weeks ago.
I mean, I'm forgetting a lot of things from just phase 1. And I mean, now we're on phase 3, and so far, like all these movies in phase 3 have been incredibly solid. They're all very different from one another.
They might be the best selection of the entire series thus far.
I think it's because, like, for the first time, we're getting different heroes. It's not Iron Man 4. It's not, well, I mean, it's Captain America and Thor, but I mean, it's not the same.
Well, Thor's getting a second chance.
Lineup the same. Yeah, Thor deserved it. I didn't necessarily care for the first two.
Yeah, it's funny. Okay, so I saw the first Thor film, but I've never watched Dark World. Like, I just knew that like it was so like unremarkable.
It's kind of a moot point.
If I would have watched Thor, I probably wouldn't have watched Thor 2. Like, I hate to say it, but Thor just like upsets me so greatly as like a creative, because all they do is like they tilt the camera and then they just dolly it in. And it's
the
like
Dutch dolly.
It's if that's all you got, if that's all you can do to like make this visually impressive, quit, please. For the love of God, just quit what you're doing. There's no hope for you.
Okay, well, Paul, how did you feel about Ragnarok then?
I loved Ragnarok.
Okay,
like,
good.
Visually, the visuals are there. Like, it's a very visually impressive film. The characters were there. It was very well written. All the interactions were fantastic. Even the music. I love that, like, would that be 80s? Kind of electronic.
Yeah, it was kind of going for that vibe.
Anything with that just instantly sold.
They also kind of like steered Thor as a character in a new direction, but they kind of been building towards this. They've been like dropping videos just on the internet of Thor with his apartment roommate, and they've kind of been building towards this new sarcastic, sassy Thor that we get in Thor Ragnarok. Yeah. He's a lot more personable.
I'm glad to see that that's finally the one we get.
You know, you look at the first movie, and the first movie, Thor is just, oh man, I'm this guy from another world who needs to get used to this new world. We've done this a lot of times. But they do that again in Thor Ragnarok. But they bring Thor's personality to the forefront and make that experience in a new world kind of the background plot. And I think they meshed that a lot better than they did the first time.
Yeah.
Oh, and also having Hulk as a buddy, like just making it like a buddy cop movie almost, super solid. We need more Hulk and do it like that.
That actually, that's one of the things that every time Hulk is on screen that's bugged me to this point, is Hulk is always used as like this rage monster, and all you get is this mindless like destruction machine, and that's not the Hulk that I love. Before like they really, I think before the original Avengers dropped, I went and watched, I think it was Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes on Disney XD. And that series is fantastic. If you guys haven't seen that, I highly recommend, like, if you really want to learn more about these characters and their origins and kind of see them interact some more in a very lighthearted and fun way, to watch that cartoon. It's also very serious and can get heavy at certain points, but the characters in that are just like, it made me really love these characters. And so a lot of times in the cinematic universe, it hasn't quite lived up to these characters that I know and love from the cartoon. And one of those places is with the Hulk. The Hulk in that movie has taken over kind of like he does in Ragnarok, where it's just the Hulk's personality, but he talks and he engages the other Avengers, and it's just a lot of fun having this giant, super strong man kind of in this apartment with the other heroes, you know?
He's a teddy bear.
Exactly. And I like the Hulk having that personality and engaging the other members, not just I'm Hulk and smash, and that's it.
We'll probably see a lot more of that in Avengers Infinity War coming up in May. So definitely look forward to that. If we're finished up with Age of Ultron, we should probably move into another Marvel movie that we all saw recently.
Oh, yeah.
So we saw Black Panther on opening weekend. Well, Paul and I did. Logan, you saw it in the week?
I did as well.
Okay, cool. So we all saw Black Panther on opening weekend. I had a really good time with that movie, just right out of the gate. I just like for one thing, I really like Black Panther's outfit, so whenever I see him on screen in that outfit, I'm like, ooh, yeah. He's all black and he's a panther. And I think his powers are really cool, so at some point he gets a suit where like he can absorb kinetic energy and then burst it back out. I was like, yep, I want more of that. Give me more of that. That's really cool.
There's only one thing his suit was missing for me. In the cartoon, he can turn invisible, or he can blend in. He goes camo. And like, so I think the first like 4 or 5 episodes of that show, he's just like hiding in walls in like the corner, just kind of observing. And it's really cool to have him just like show up out of nowhere and then disappear and then come back and whatnot. And I really wish that he could do that in this movie.
They might play with that more like in the future, like with Spider-Man Homecoming. They didn't use the Spidey sense at all, but in the trailer for Infinity War, they're like, here's your Spidey sense.
Yeah, I that's what I was thinking is, you know, I'm not like a huge comic book nut. I don't know like a ton about the past of these characters. It's something that has always been in the back of my mind, something that I've wanted to do, but I just haven't got around to do it. But I imagine that at least within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that they don't want to like play all their cards right off the bat. You know, they want to introduce it. Like, you know, Black Panther has been a small role in some previous movies. I think most notably for me was like Civil War. He was in there for a little bit. And again, they added something with this movie. They added that whole kinetic energy because they had a reason to. It's all of a sudden now he's the titular character in this movie. And okay, well, we want him to have at least one other really cool thing other than just like, hey, we're going to explain like where his powers came from, which I also thought was really cool. You know, sometimes like, you know, with Spider-Man, it's like, oh, I got bit by a radioactive spider and now I'm Spider. And then other people do like other crazy things.
I'm rich and I built this tricked out suit.
Right. And then with Black Panther, it's like, oh, there's this like, you know, herb or whatever that we prepare and then
it's
we
like
only allow
passage.
it. Right. And so, but we keep it, you know, to that one person.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't let anybody else have it, you know?
Well, the cool thing about that too is that it isn't necessarily limited to the one person. At any point, well, I guess not in the movie as much, but people can challenge him for that power and he has to face them without it, which is a very interesting dynamic that this hero might not always be this one person that we know and love.
And they played that concept a couple times in the movie itself. And I guess I'll just mention those scenes really quick. You know, they're like on the pond and they have this big like stone structure that, you know, all the people of Wakanda are standing on watching the fight. I thought that was really cool. Just like they have like this really cool badass stadium. It's really vertical, and you know, I've never really seen anything like that. I thought that was cool design.
Yeah.
Speaking of design, costumes are they spent a lot of time on the costumes, top notch. Just so much variety in the character designs. My eyes didn't really know what to stop looking at because there was so much new things that I've never seen before. I'm like, ooh, that's cool. Ooh, that's cool. Oh man, look at that guy's got a big old lip. That's cool.
Yeah, it really felt like, and then I think this is a continuing trend. You know, it felt like for a bit there, within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that they were kind of just like churning out movies. That they didn't really have much heart. They were just kind of like putting them out there. But I think somebody along the line realized, you know, maybe we should try a little bit harder. Maybe we should put a little bit more heart. Maybe we should think about who we're getting to do these movies. So, I mean, obviously for Black Panther, you cannot deny the overwhelming blackness in this movie, you know? And I think, I don't know who was responsible for this, but they knew what they were doing. They were getting the right people involved who knew how to use the material and knew how to handle it in such a way that really did the movie justice. And I think that's true for like Thor Ragnarok. They're like, hey, let's get some really interesting people to do some really interesting and you know, potentially progressive things, you know, whether it be the way you do your movie or how you handle issues within the movie. And it feels like they're taking a lot more care, and it pays off because we're getting better movies. At least that's what it feels like, and more interesting movies, and movies that people are more excited about. And obviously that's good for a brand, so they have every motivation to. I'm just glad that it's finally happening, that I feel like we're actually getting, you know, the love and care that, you know, some of these movies really deserve, and that's definitely very, very much true for Black Panther.
Well, from like a social perspective, when you look at what this movie means to a lot of people, Marvel really like stepped in and said, this movie is already on a super accessible high platform. A lot of people are already going to come see this movie. We have a group of people who need to be represented, and they need to be represented justly. And I feel like, you know, really good on Marvel for taking advantage of their voice, taking advantage of that platform that they've already established, and giving these people a movie that they feel really proud of.
Yeah, and it's funny because, like, obviously, we're all white. But there was something that I could see about how the movie, you know, handled itself. It was just a good movie. Anybody could enjoy it. And it was really endearing, and there was a lot of heart. And I walked out feeling very, like, emotionally lifted. Like, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I just, you know, got to experience that movie, you know, and it was just... It felt right. It felt right, and there's still, I feel like I need to watch it at least a second time before I really get into the nitty gritty or you know, really develop my opinion on it. But you know, what I can say for sure is that it's just an enjoyable movie. It's a great experience. Anywhere from you realize that the protagonist is not, you know, he's not overpowered, you know, and then all of a sudden the antagonist it's almost like you know, he was like the cousin of the main character, and I just love how all that got worked in, and I don't know.
This movie has some really fantastic characters. Like, the one complaint that I really have about this movie is that if there's not more Michael B. Jordan in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I will be so upset, because he did a phenomenal job. Like, the guy who played Black Panther, I forget his name, but like he was good, but he wasn't Michael B. Jordan good.
The villain role outclassed everybody else in this movie. Michael B. Jordan, man, he brought it. Absolutely brought it. It
helps that his background is very relatable. You connect with him, you feel for him, you definitely like, you can see where he's coming from. And that's one of the great things about this film is like, when you take a step back and like think about just what the story was, you have this super advanced nation that is posing as like the third world country to kind of hide just how like developed they are, and just like that internal struggle within them, like, what should we help? Can we help without risking ourselves? How do we balance taking care of us while also helping other people? And that's just a really interesting struggle to me. It's not as
it's also very topical. We've had a lot of hurricanes in the past year, and our administration has been receiving a lot of criticism for not necessarily reaching out and helping those people, even if those people technically belong to us. Like Haiti, for instance, has always been going through tough struggles, but we don't bat an eye, and they're our own people.
You mean Puerto Rico?
Yeah, but Haiti's had trouble too in the past year, haven't they?
Well, yeah, Haiti has trouble, but I think
more recently
I got mixed
Puerto
up
Rico,
with the context there. Anyway, yeah, but yeah, and that was really cool. And I'm not trying to spoil anything, but one thing I would like to say is, I always find it funny when I go see a Marvel movie because there's certain expectations for format, and one of those expectations is that there is going to be a post-credits scene, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm sitting with Johnny. Me and Johnny went and saw it, and the credits start to roll and everybody starts clapping like they do at the end of all these movies, and people start to leave, and I was like, do you not care? Do you not? There's a post.
We actually at our theater, there was this dude who stopped other people from leaving. He was like shouting out to other people, like, "Hey, there's a post-credits scene, guys."
He was an old man too, so it was even better.
And actually, that was one of the most fascinating things about the movie, is because something significant happened in this post-credits scene. About the stance of Wakanda in the global setting. So it was almost like a declaration. It's like, oh, Black Panther is going to be much more present in the MCU, following this movie. And actually, that's one of the most exciting things. Is I wonder how this occurrence in this movie will move the MCU forward, and how it will change it.
Quick hi, Dylan. I see they joined our stream down there. Also, hi, Logan. I missed you if you're still here. My old roommate.
Oh, their chat's not appearing in the box.
It's on Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll fix that later.
I want to pose a quick question, and it's something that I've kind of been wrestling with following it. I want to start by saying that I do love this film, and I do love socially what it's done. But walking away, going into it, I felt like a lot of the conversation about it, a lot of the buzz it generated was strictly around the social aspect of what it was achieving, and not necessarily as much on the fact that it was a good film. And so, to some degree, I felt like I was supposed to go in and walk away having seen something that, will always be a timeless classic. Kind of like, what was my example? The Princess Bride. I mean, no one can really see that movie and leave saying that it was an awful movie, or even now people can see it and still relate to it and still love it. And I just personally, I will not give that kind of status to any Marvel movie. They're not going to be a classic in the traditional sense. 100 years from now, I'm not going to go back, and I don't think they're going to still be as fantastic in 100 years, Well,
I think in the case of Marvel, they're classics as a collective and not individually.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking there are definitely some of those movies that are much, much better than the other ones, but none of the movies so far in and of themselves have been like, wow, like this is such an incredible movie. Like this is better than any of the movies that came out this year, and we'll remember this one forever. But as a collective, as the MCU, people will be like, well, I have the entire collection, you know, and so let's go and sit through all these movies, you know, after it's been finished. Who knows when the MCU will end, and or when they'll reboot it or something like that.
It's a milestone as what is in terms of what it's achieved as a collective. I can't think of any other example where you have this collective of movies that all string together in one coherent story. As far as like Hollywood experiments go, this is one of the most successful things I think that Hollywood has ever done.
Yeah. I mean, just like on the individual level, I agree completely that like the collection as a whole is very significant and has that kind of status, but like walking away from it, having people kind of sold it as like this individual classic, I left disappointed.
In what ways?
Like I was expecting to agree with that sentiment. You know, this movie by itself will just, it's a classic. And I didn't really share that. Like I still think it's a great movie, but I feel like to some degree it was overhyped. And that might just be me.
It could also be us as white men.
Logan. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely won't relate to it, you know, in the same way that the black community will, and that's okay. And
we shouldn't, honestly. It's not meant for us exactly.
Right. But at the same time, like, also things that are timeless classics, you can't necessarily tell right off the bat, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
You can if you see a really stellar movie, you can see like, oh my god, I will remember this movie forever for this or this reason. But even then, it might not become a timeless classic. It might not be as well remembered as you think it deserves to be, you know?
This is kind of an extreme example, but you look at a movie like The Room, and that movie is awful. And it has had one of the most incredible cultural impacts like on the movie community that you could ever see. Like you wouldn't expect it to have the impact that it's had because it is a bad movie. But maybe Black Panther will have its own kind of cultural impact for just being a cultural representative movie.
Right.
Yeah. I guess for me, part of the problem is that I wish like this wasn't such, I wish it didn't have to be so culturally important. I wish we would have had more of this before now. It's 2018, guys. Like, come on.
Yeah, what's wrong with us? But, you know, despite that, this is an important first step to achieving that kind of normalcy.
And I hope we definitely get there.
Yeah, I hope there's more standalone Black Panther movies so that we can keep that and keep those audiences that it's brought in coming back to the theater. And then maybe we can spread that kind of identity out into other films. John
Stewart, Green Lantern. I would take that movie in a heartbeat. I'm still waiting for a live action Static Shock. I will always be waiting for that.
And maybe we can even like extend even outside of just superhero movies. There are a lot of movies that, you know, meet this kind of standard that are, you know, trying to represent people who are underrepresented and cater to issues that, you know, aren't talked about enough. It just happens to be in the case of superheroes, these are very popular and very big movies that just drive big crowds in the first place. So we just need to find more ways to do that, maybe just outside of this as a medium.
It also doesn't help that a lot of superheroes fall into like one demographic. And I mean, they've made great strides recently in terms of comics as to diversifying a lot, but offhand, I can't think of as many examples as I could for white male superhero.
Well, you look at video games, in the case of like Overwatch's cast is incredibly culturally diverse. So if we do that more in video games too, we like video games on this show, by the way.
We love them.
I think that would go a long way.
Yeah.
So I think collectively we all like Black Panther. Maybe some of us more than others. I
still love it. It's still like one of the more solid Marvel films to date.
Yeah.
I think currently my standing is that I liked it. I liked it a lot. There's other Marvel movies that I like more, but it's really good. And who knows, if I watch it again, maybe I'll because this happens a lot. You watch a movie a second or third time, you pick up on things that you didn't pick up on the first time because you're less focused on like how does the story go and because you know how the story goes, and so now you're looking at like different aspects and some of the design aspects, maybe some of the little tiny things, like for example, like I plan on watching Call Me by Your Name again tonight, and this will be my third time watching it. And the second time, I probably mentioned this last week, you pick up on different things and you're like, wow, and then it takes on a new meaning and it can sit within you a little bit differently, and that can drastically change how you feel about a movie watching it a second or third time.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to sitting with this movie again and again and again and again.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think I'd encourage anybody that if you sit and you watch a movie, whatever that movie may be, and you say, I liked the film, but there's something that you like, I don't know how to feel about certain things, watch it again, because chances are you'll either figure out things like, well, I didn't really like it that much, because like these things, well, maybe they could have done these things better. But I think more often than not, if you like a film, you're going to end up liking it more the second time because you pick up on all those intricacies and all that stuff. And I think it'll make you more knowledgeable as a moviegoer, as a viewer, and it just enhances your experience. It makes a movie that much more endearing, especially if it's a really good one.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the most incredible things about film is that, like, as time goes on, you change, and that changes your perception of it. So you go back and watch a movie again later, you'll have a different perspective, and it'll change the movie entirely for you. That's kind of all media, but still. I love how like time changes media for you.
Yeah, it's like when it's like, okay, for example, when you're a child, and I was a child, I'll make this
Whoa.
Right. When I was a child, I once had I have a past, and when I was a kid, I would watch the movie Baby Geniuses, and I loved it. I loved that movie as a kid, and I remember not terrible, maybe a year or two ago, somebody made a post about Baby Geniuses being like this pile of crap, like glorious pile of crap. Like they had fond memories of it, but it's a terrible movie. And then you look it up on Rotten Tomatoes and it has like 2%. It's an awful movie. If you watched it, knowing what we know about movies now and how they're constructed and how they, here's what a good movie looks like, here's what a bad movie looks like. You watch the movie again, you're like, oh, that was awful. But then as a kid, like, it doesn't matter. You just see babies talking. You're like, that's hysterical. Oh, they're super smart. And you see something in that and you relate to it for whatever reason. But then you go back and you realize it's just not good. But it's like, I'll go back and I'll watch bad movies. Because a movie is good or bad, it feels like it's independent of how much I enjoy any given movie. I can enjoy a bad film. I can be like, that was a great time.
Bad movies are they're a lot of fun, like depending on who you're with. Like if we all three of us sat down and watched Baby Genius, we'd have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's certain movies like just talk through the entire thing. Specific cult classic, specifically something like The Room. They have regular showings at like smaller theaters around the country. And they have like all these different callbacks, like there's parts in The Room where you'll go to showings and people just like take plastic spoons and they'll throw them at the screen, like at the same time, like I remember the first time I watched The Room was in a group setting and we kept pausing the film to laugh about things, to say stupid things about it, or like, how does this make sense? Just analyzing in that way. And it's such a great time. And that's really what makes I think that makes anything is being able to talk about movies, being able to talk about video games, laugh about them, rip on them, appreciate certain things about them. As long as there's people to talk to, you can enjoy almost anything.
It's a mindset.
And that's,
it really is.
That's kind of what the podcast serves as too, is this is an outlet for us to have these kinds of conversations. And if you're out there and you're watching these, please feel free to talk back to us about these things as well. Your chats will appear below us in the video version, so you can see your chats on screen, and we'll see them and be able to interact with you as well.
Also, hit us up on Twitter anytime. Tell us what you're watching, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
I want to know. I want to know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're only human. Like, we can only digest so much, and then there's also only so much in my realm of influence. I mean, I think the vast majority of things that I've ever listened to or watched has been from some sort of recommendation. So whether I'm online and lots of people are talking about it, or a friend is saying like, hey, watch this movie, there are certain like foreign films that I never would have touched if it wasn't for, certain acquaintances and friends, going to college and being like, hey, this is a really good film. It's like, I never in my entire life, if you were not in my life, I would not have watched this film.
Wow, that went so much deeper than I was expecting for our movie talk this week.
Oh yeah.
Are there any other movies that we've seen thus far that we need to mention?
I don't know. I think that's a really good place to wrap up the movie discussion.
Okay. Well, we can go ahead and move into our anime discussion. Logan, before Paul and I start, have you watched any anime this week?
No, I haven't. Actually, yes, I have. I've been playing catch up on Dragon Ball Super.
Oh boy.
All right, break it down for us. Hey.
Okay, so I am currently in the Goku Black arc. I think I have one more episode to catch up on, and actually after this podcast, I'll probably have another one to catch up on tomorrow. So currently what has happened is Trunks came. They keep saying, oh, I gotta go back to the future. And I was like, why did they couldn't have changed that line a little, like, okay, I have to. I don't know how else they would frame it, but I just,
it's too stuck in the ways,
Yeah.
Right.
There's no other way to describe going back to the future than Back to the Future.
Right. But the next episode started off with, oh, okay, hey, this Goku right here isn't Goku Black. You don't have to worry about it, Trunks. And Trunks kind of like, oh my gosh. And then, Whis and Beerus are there, and Trunks realizes that actually this is one of my favorite parts. This is a very small portion. They're like, oh yeah, no, that's like a god. He's a destroyer. And Trunks is like, what the heck? What? No way. And then he like bows before Whis, and then Beerus is like super offended, like, what?
I mean, that's a lot to take in, just like very casually. Oh yeah, we know the god of he can totally destroy the universe if he wants.
Also, there is a god of destruction, in case you didn't know.
But it was pretty unreal, because within those two episodes also contains the first like fight between Goku and Goku Black, right? Mm-hmm. And that was unreal, because I'm like, they look the same, but then it dawns on you that Goku Black isn't Goku. Mm-hmm. He has, like, as far as I know, he's like possessed the body of Goku, and Goku's no longer in there. He's like just a shell that has been filled up by Black, So I thought that first like fight was really interesting, because it didn't go too far. It was more of a taste. Like, you could tell that he was a contender for Goku. Mm-hmm. Like, Goku was, at least within the Super Saiyan form, and it's like, okay, well, you could tell it's like, oh, and they kept mentioning that Goku Black he kept getting stronger throughout the fight, and that's exciting. I was like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And then he gets like sucked back through like the rip in time or whatever, you know. And then they're like, whew, well, we dodged a bullet, you know. And I don't know what to expect from here on out, but you know, I said this last week, the prospect of this arc is very exciting, and I think these last 2 episodes that I watched just reinforced that. So I'm very excited to see where this goes.
I'll kind of set the stage for you real quick, Logan. This is a very divisive arc amongst fans of Dragon Ball, and I'm excited to kind of see you form your opinion as we move along. And additionally, I'm also watching the dub. I feel like
I guess that means I need to start.
Some of the divisions that take place in the community, I think, are because of how maybe the sub's translation didn't make things very clear. So I'm looking forward to how the dub handles it and maybe changes the way I personally think. And before we move on from Dragon Ball Super, obviously this is a pretty important arc in the fact that Future Trunks is back, who is a landmark character in the Android saga in the original Dragon Ball Z. Logan, how is it for you to have this character back? What kind of thoughts and emotions are you going through? What's your history with Trunks in the first place?
Do you like him, hate him? Want to make babies with them?
I've always thought you know, obviously your first introduction to Trunks is adult Trunks, you know. He comes back, he goes back in the past,
Samurai Jack,
before he goes back to the future. And it's interesting to see like all that take place, and you're like, at first you're like, oh, here's this character and we don't know who he is, and then it's revealed, oh, he is from the future and he is the son of you know, Bulma and Vegeta. And spoiler alert.
Well, actually, no. Josh Borden is in the chat right now, and he says Trunks is my dad.
Oh,
that's
my
a very
God.
important family.
I can't wait for
there.
Dragon Ball Ultra or whatever comes afterwards.
Mega Z.
But yeah, no, I've always enjoyed the character of Trunks, and I think I've appreciated him a lot ever since like actual Trunks came into existence, not adult Trunks. And then you had all those interactions with you know, Goten, and then the beautiful fusion that is Gotenks. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, I've always liked him. He's never been like my favorite character, but I think he is a welcome character. I've always appreciated his presence and how they use him, and gives, you know, Goten needs a friend, and Trunks is a great friend.
It was interesting, especially for me and Paul, because and technically we hadn't seen the character of Future Trunks since we first saw the Android saga take place, and we were children when that aired on television. So now we're adults, and Future Trunks comes back, and we're like, we missed you, buddy. Welcome home.
Yeah, whereas for me, like, my entire Dragon Ball experience has happened in the last like 3 to 4 years.
Yeah,
it was very exciting when Trunks first came back, or the Future Trunks came back, because I actually really don't like Goten and Kid Trunks. And so it's like, oh man, the character I want to be there instead of these two children is back. I think Gohan needed a friend, and that was Trunks.
For me, I think it was like the end of like the Super Ultra Water or whatever they called it, that little filler mini arc that we had, and like the end of that episode, they teased that the Future Trunks arc is starting. I remember when I saw that in the sub for the first time, and I saw Future Trunks appear on screen, and he was running, and I was like, oh my god, Future Trunks is back.
Why does he have blue hair?
Why does he have blue hair? It's hilarious, like how much of a problem that is in the community right now. That's like one of the biggest divisions, is the fact that Trunks has blue hair.
I think the funniest part about that is that like him having purple hair makes a lot less sense than him having blue hair.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also funny because like I think especially when it comes to time travel, I'm really not a stickler for consistency because that's just the nature of like time travel and different timelines. Like, dude, simple small changes can make a huge difference. So to think that all of a sudden like this future version of Trunks has blue hair, like honestly, it's not that unbelievable that just something simple like that changed for whatever reason. Or maybe as Trunks grows in this certain timeline, you know, his hair changes. And that happens in real life. You know, my little brother was born a blonde and now he's like, you know, a lighter brown haired.
I need some help remembering this. Does Kid Trunks in Super have purple hair still?
It's the light purple hair. For
Holy
those
hell,
of you
I don't know what's going on,
who maybe don't remember, Bulma's father, Dr. Briefs, has that same color hair as Kid Trunks. So maybe that gene he got from Dr. Briefs, and maybe in the future timeline he takes more after his mother, which makes sense. Which makes sense more kind of like thematically in that series because Trunks' mother Bulma is all he has in the future. So to me, it makes more sense that he would take more after his mother, and I think it's kind of symbolic in that sense as well. You also saw future Bulma murdered. For Super, that's a pretty big dark turn, I would imagine, for you, because nothing like super drastic or dastardly has taken place until that moment.
Right.
We find, and like in Dragon Ball Z as a whole, the sense of consequence is significantly lowered because of the Dragon Balls, but that's one instance where Trunks can't do anything to bring her back because there's no Piccolo or Kami in that future. Well, we can't really talk about the sub of Dragon Ball for Logan's sake. I will mention
it's still almost over.
There is a huge, big mom-sized spoiler floating around the internet, even on like Nintendo news site sources, that I would highly advise that you be careful about.
Good job. Just media in general.
It spoiled Paul and I. The episode the thing that we didn't want to know about hasn't even taken place yet in the sub, but it got spoiled for us with like 4 episodes of the anime left. So Logan, man. Be careful.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, I think I frequent the internet a little bit less or carefully these days. So I just have other things to do. But also, I don't think I'm that big of a stickler on spoilers. Like, I'm not going to actively try to spoil anything for anybody else, but I'm also not super upset when certain things are spoiled for me. There are exceptions. But I'll definitely try to avoid it.
Okay. Well, on top of Dragon Ball Super, a series that I had been watching since its inception, and one that Paul has recently taken to, is Shokugeki no Soma. In English, that's Food Wars. This is a high school cooking anime. So this is a shonen. So basically, they're fighting with food battles. They're cooking to be the best. This series follows a teenager who works at a diner with his dad. They're both really good cooks, really good chefs, and then his dad's like, I'm gonna leave and you're going to school. And he's like, what? So we end up at Totsuki Academy, where Yukihira Soma has gone to learn how to be a better chef. He makes quite an impression on his first day during the inauguration ceremony, where he stands in front of the entire student body of Totsuki Academy and says that he's going to beat every single one of them. In typical shonen anime fashion, the main character is going to be the best at something. He's not going to be the best ninja. He's not going to be the best pirate. He's going to be the best chef that he can be. And that is Shokugeki no Soma.
Well, I feel like you need a little more context with this academy, too. It is a very cutthroat school.
Yeah.
I think to graduate, you need to be in like the top 10%. Mm-hmm. So basically everybody that goes there, 90% of them, they're not going to make it the cut. They're not going to, nothing's going to come of it.
Right. And the series has this really cool mechanic where if there's a disagreement between two people, they can come to a resolution by way of a Shokugeki. And a Shokugeki, a food war, is basically like an Iron Chef drag out chef battle where they fight to create the best dish, and a panel of 3 judges will decide who has created the best dish. The person who wins the Shokugeki gets their way. So you have to bet something bet something that you're willing to sacrifice, and then obviously the thing that you want to gain from the battle. So if you win the duel, and in many cases the loss of the duel will result in you being expelled from the school, because of course we have to make it super drastic.
Oh yeah.
And if you win, you get your way. If you lose, you're probably going to get expelled, because that's usually what happens. It's a really, really ridiculous idea.
Really ridiculous execution.
Yeah, the show is like super over the top. When a character like eats something and it's super delicious, they go into like these animations to kind of illustrate to you how the food tastes, and if
their clothes explode.
Yeah, their clothes explode. If it tastes really good, their clothes explode. There's some questionable moaning that takes place in some cases. It's
not the best show to watch with your family,
especially in the first season. The first season takes those ecchi themes kind of a little over the top, but it dials it down pretty quickly, and just focuses on being a good show more than trying to bring in 13-year-old boys into watching the show. The show is currently concluded. It's its 3rd season, I think.
3rd season, yeah.
The second part of season 3 will actually come back in April.
Oh man, I just realized how close we are.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it.
The Shokugeki no Soma has been canceled twice, just to let you know. But the sheer popularity of the anime has brought it back time after time. And I think we've finally gotten to the point where Shokugeki no Soma is a guarantee to come back every season.
Hopefully. It deserves to come back every season.
One of the things about this show is that the animation is always incredibly high quality. They make the food, especially, they make the food look super delicious. You often leave Shokugeki no Soma every week really hungry and wishing that you could take part in some of these meals, because it's kind of hard. You're watching them eat these foods and you don't have any idea what they taste like. They have to deliver all of that through you through illustration and through dialogue. But it doesn't.
And they do it very successfully.
Yeah, they do it really well, like surprisingly well, given the context. Paul and I have even committed to cosplaying as some of the characters. I'll be cosplaying as Yukihiro Soma, the main character of Shokugeki no Soma, but Paul's cosplay is going to be super amazing. He's bringing it over. Okay, so there's a character.
He's already got it. He's already finished it.
There's a character in Shokugeki no Soma named Ishiki Senpai, and all he wears is what Paul is holding right now.
I don't know if I got it in the screen yet, but
that's all the character wears.
No other clothes. He just wears the apron.
Just the apron. So, Paul, you said you're getting a like a morph suit that's like skin colored, right?
Yep.
Oh man,
so it
I
looks
can't
like
wait.
I'm just wearing the apron.
You can just tell by this conversation that Shokugeki is a very, very crazy and silly. There's one character who is like the host of like this Dawn RS club. There's different clubs for different styles of food, and he's got like this pompadour hair, but it's like long and it's a rod, and whenever he gets excited, it pops up in the air and becomes pretty solid. So yeah, there's some adult humor in this show, but if you can take that, there's a lot of adult humor in this show. I highly recommend that you give this a shot. It's just super fun.
It's really hard for us to just describe this show because it's unbelievably unique.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can honestly say I've never seen anything quite like this. The way they actually managed to take something like cooking and turn it into a very fierce battle is just so interesting.
And I believe like the illustrator and writer of the manga has a chef's background, so I mean you're getting some legitimate facts about cooking and how various ingredients complement each other as you watch the show. So it can also be an educational experience at the same time.
Oh yeah,
and all the dishes
the characters are just fantastic.
Sorry. All the dishes in the anime are foods that you can actually make. So I guess if you really want to know what it tastes like, you can just whip it up yourself.
We have to at some point.
Oh, yeah. As Paul said, yeah, the characters are super enjoyable. Yukihiro Soma is such a snarky jerk. He the first.
I might actually give him like my favorite protagonist award.
Yeah, I'd be willing to give you that,
much.
or give it that too. Yukihira doesn't always like put his care for his friends at the forefront, much like Goku. His desire to better his own cooking skills comes first, and then saving his friends comes second. But like the interactions he'll have with these characters is always so funny, because like they'll go to like this chibi version of Yukihira with these like blank white eyes, so when people talk to him he just doesn't take them seriously, and they go to that animated version of him, and it's always funny every single time. It makes me laugh. The person who voices Yukihira Soma in the Japanese dub is incredible at just like making blanket statements, feeling like Yukihira doesn't really care about anything that anyone else is going through except himself. And there's some
Takumi Arutini.
Yeah, I love it when Japanese characters shout each other's names. Specifically, that one is a standout. There's a character who sees himself as a antagonist to Yukihira. His name is Takumi Aldini, and he's Italian. And he sees Yukihira as his rival, and he always approaches Yukihira with those rival statements like, "I'm gonna beat you, Yukihira. You're just no way that you're gonna take over my power or be better than me." And Yukihira just always ignores him. He's just like, he never reciprocates the conversation by acknowledging the fact that Takumi Aldini is his rival. It's a one-sided deal, and it's super hilarious. Logan, you've got. I know for a fact that you would love this show. You've got to give this a chance.
I mean, hearing you guys talk about it makes it like sound like really exciting, and it makes me excited to be like, well, maybe I should watch this. Like, last week Paul mentioned Baka and Test, and I was like, well, now that's in the forefront of my mind. And then now, I mean, I've heard of Food Wars, and I've heard some positive things about it, nothing too specific, but I might have to put this on my list. I might have to structure out how I watch things. I mean, I think most of the stuff I've watched this week in terms of like TV shows and anime, I mean, I haven't really watched any anime other than the Dragon Ball Supers. I've just been rewatching other like adult cartoons because I'm a huge fan of adult cartoons. So I've just been like going to bed to Bob's Burgers and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I'm gonna have to write this down, and maybe watch some of it in the next week here, and maybe I'll mention Food Wars next week and mention my impressions.
And if you're wondering where to watch Food Wars, you can watch Shokugeki no Soma, its Japanese name, on Verve and Crunchyroll. Please sponsor us.
Please.
Please.
So yeah, Shokugeki no Soma is not a complete anime. It is ongoing. It'll be back in April, and you'll be able to watch it weekly on Crunchyroll, an hour after it broadcasts in Japan. Definitely check it out if you like shonen anime. It's empowering. It gives you the same kind of feelings that you get watching shows like Dragon Ball or Naruto. It's just a really good time, really funny, puts you in a good mood. Highly recommend it. Paul, based on a recommendation you gave last week, I have officially begun my watch through of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I am 13 episodes in. Finally got past the part. I've gotten past the part in the story where I know what's happened already. So like I'm in new stuff. Michaela, on the other hand, this is all new to her. And last week we watched a very infamous episode of Full Metal Alchemist. You both already know what I'm talking about.
No, I mean even before you mentioned that you were gonna watch that episode, or you guys did watch that episode, all I could think is you mentioned Full Metal Alchemist, and I go, Edward.
Michaela, I think, was actually scarred by that episode.
I feel like your first time through it has to scar you.
It's intense.
The internet's done a really good job of lightening that up.
They have to
quite a bit. Otherwise, yeah, it just crushes your soul.
Spoiler alert, if you don't want to know what we're talking about, I'm about to mention it, so maybe don't listen for like another 30 seconds. In the particular episode we're talking about, there is a father who's an alchemist who creates chimeras, and chimeras are amalgamations of different creatures put together to make a new creature. He has a daughter, and he has a dog. The daughter's name is Nina, the dog is Alexander, and the main characters, Ed and Al, are visiting him in order to learn a little bit about his research. Eventually, the father uses his own daughter and his own dog to create a new chimera so that he can retain his...
A dogter.
Yes, a dogter, to retain his state alchemy license. And Ed and Al discover this, and Nina the dog looks at Ed and says, "Ed, word." And basically,
one thing I'm super thankful
you all
about
die
with that
inside.
episode is that it breezes over it, so you don't have to feel the pain of it long. So
yeah,
at least
the original anime is a little
Michaela
darker.
didn't have to endure.
Yeah, and basically it hits you in all the wrong emotions and makes you feel awful about everything. And then shortly after, well, I guess I'll leave that part
You find
out.
memes.
Yeah, you find memes. A favorite of mine is
Okay.
of Goten and Trunks doing the fusion dance with Nina and Alexander's faces photoshopped over them. Oh my god, super funny. Yeah, Michaela hasn't stopped talking about
half
this.
Laugh, half cry. Like,
Yeah.
oh my god, this is horrible, but I have to laugh to offset just how awful this is.
I mean, Brian, you've been sending her nonstop memes, right?
I have. I won't talk
I got to
about the
send
context in which I've done that for her own sake, but I've been sending her memes over Messenger just periodically of Nina and Alexander, and every time she just replies with "stop."
It's pretty fantastic, her reactions to it, because I got a chance to send her one, too.
She thought she was
And
gonna
I
have
got the exact
nightmares
same-
that night. We finished
we
watching
just-
that episode right before we went to bed, and she's like, "I have to watch something happy." And I said, "No, I gotta go to bed,
That's
get up for
fair.
work in the morning." So I made her go to sleep.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I've been having fun with that. I'll probably try and finish up the series here in a couple weeks. Haven't been able to move forward on Game of Thrones yet this last week just because of how busy I've been. But I'll try to catch up on that. It's easier to digest like a half-hour show than it is like an hour show.
Oh, yeah.
And usually that kind of... I even watched Rugrats yesterday. I watched Rugrats. I'm like, I need to like slow things down, something I don't have to dedicate my entire attention to.
We all need those, like, background programs every now and again.
Yeah. So definitely have been enjoying that. Has there been any other anime we've taken to watching this week?
Well, not anything new. I am still through Bakken Test. I finally made it through season 1. I forgot that there was a couple of OVAs afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
I still have really great things to say about that. It's such a fun show with a lot of adult humor and a lot of like unexpected character traits, might be a fair way to describe it. There's just a lot of really great wacky characters just all over the place. And so it's a really fun ride. If you want to start that at any point, please do. Also available on Verve and I think Crunchyroll. Definitely Funimation at least.
Man, I'm gonna have to subscribe to Verve here. I did the free trial, like, not too long ago, but I think, I don't know, it might be worth it to drop.
I watched too much anime during that free trial, and so I just couldn't stop.
Right. That's why they do the free trial.
I've been paying for it ever since.
Okay, so moving into games, we've all been playing Monster Hunter still.
That's not going to go away for several weeks.
Probably
months,
not.
Yeah.
years.
I mean, I've had my goals for this week for Monster Hunter, and I actually was able to achieve certain things. And obviously, I think some people are getting a little bit tired, so they're not playing it as frequently, but they'll still get on every once in a while and stuff like that. One of my main goal for this week was to unlock the rainbow armor pigment.
Ooh.
And I did it.
Congratulations!
You
Yeah, right.
fabulous?
No, and it was fun because I knew I kind of scoured the internet. It's like how do I do this, and I finally realized it's like, well, I had to go. You have to finish all these optional quests, and then you have to finish the urgent quest at Hunter rank 49, which is the Tempered Kirin, and then the commander, I think, wants to talk to you, and then he gives you that quest that unlocks the rainbow armor pigment. But I was missing a few of the optional quests from the 6-star and 7-star optional sections, and our friend Adam was like, you might want to check the research base, and that's when it hit me. I was like, oh, and then I went into the research base, and then like within an hour, I had like unlocked both of all the quests, optional quests that I needed to complete. And then it was just a matter of, well, I got to beat the Kirin quest. I got to beat the Tempered Kirin quest. And I tried it once. In preparation for it, I went and I built a armor set. I built the, what do you call it, armor set? The Tobi-Kadachi armor set, because I knew it was going to give me thunder resistance. And that was a must. But then once I failed, I was like, okay, what else can I do? Well, I went back and I hunted just like a regular non-tempered, like high rank Kirin a few times. And I got all the pieces that I needed to build the high rank Kirin set, which I did. And then I upgraded it as much as I could. And then one of the other things I added was it gave me, I built the beta set, which gave me like level 2 stun resistance.
Oh yeah, you definitely need that.
Yeah, and then I went ahead and I built a charm, which gave me level 3 stun resistance, which helped immensely. Helped absolutely immensely. That way, there was much less moments where I was in a position where I was really vulnerable. And then also in preparation, I made like enough mega demon drugs and mega armor skins, and I brought a bunch of might pills and adamant pills, and I even used like armor powders and demon powders, and I was buffing myself constantly with my Kirin armor. I had stun resistance. I had I think I was using the Uragan weapon, which has a fire element to it, and so I just like prepared out the ass.
Did you manage to beat it?
I did. I managed to beat it, and I was like, yes, it felt good. I didn't even faint once, which was the most impressive part. I'm totally down for that again, because now I'm like at top of the world. I'm like, I can hunt
48,
anything.
so I'm just this close from it.
Right. Yeah. No, I hunted the heck out of that thing. I felt very, very. I took every precaution. Every time I got hit, maybe I'd lose like a fourth of my health, but I was like, I don't care. I'm popping a mega potion. I'm always going to be at full health. I just overly prepared, and then I finished it, and then I unlocked. What is the quest for the rainbow armor? What is that called?
I don't remember its name.
It probably has something like really cool, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's something like really something semi-interesting, but it's 4 monsters in the special arena. Who was it? It was it Legiana,
Odogaron, Rathalos, and Diablos. And so they stagger them, right? You go in, and Legiana's right there. Odogaron comes in a few minutes afterwards, and then Diablos, and then Rathalos. And actually, I started the hunt. Oh, you only get 25 minutes as well.
Yeah, we only get 25 minutes. And I actually was able to finish it in like just under 18 minutes.
Yeah, that's around where I was too.
Right. And so I actually went into that quest with Levi. Me and Levi were going to tackle it. And then I was like, I'm not taking any chances with this. And I popped an SOS. And 2 other people joined on that quest.
Thank you, strangers.
Right. And so we didn't get Legiana down before Odogaron showed up, but then we were able to get Legiana down and Odogaron down, and then we had to wait like a full minute before Diablo showed up.
Oh,
Like,
you can speed that up. If you
you can?
if you carve their bodies, they disappear, and then they will immediately spawn the next monster.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Good to know.
Yeah, so I mean, we all were carving Odogaron, and then a bit later, Diablos showed up, and then Rathalos showed up, and we had to deal with Diablos and Rathalos at the same time, and that's just a mess.
Did you manage to pull
Thankfully-
off the Dragonator a couple times?
We got the Dragonator once, and that was on Legiana and Odogaron, and we got them both in the thing, and it was a good feeling.
I did that with Legiana and Odogaron, and I did it again with Rathalos and Diablos.
Did you solo that quest?
I did.
You.
It was an experience. Then again, I still have my Palico, so not all the attention's like drawn towards me.
Right.
But I definitely had a surplus of flash bombs available, just so that I could kind of divvy up the fight a little bit.
Yeah. Did you like bring a bunch of flash bugs with you?
Yeah. Because you can't use a Farcaster to get back to the base. They won't let you leave. Once you're in there, you're there.
There is no escape.
Yeah, except fainting.
Yeah.
With that attitude.
I did faint once, I think, in that hunt.
Okay.
Hashtag max potions for days.
That particular quest is a lot like the final quest that you'll find in previous Monster Hunters. But this is the midway point. This is the halfway there quest. This isn't even the big boy Mac Daddy final boy quest.
I need to step my game up.
Yeah, I mean, okay, but most importantly, it unlocked the rainbow armor pigment.
Yeah.
So that's immediately what I did afterwards. Is I went back to my room and I was like, okay, apply the rainbow armor pigment. And now, like, for the last 4 or 5 hours of the game, I've just been wearing my Valhazak armor set with the rainbow armor pigment. And if you play Monster Hunter and you want to add me, I will probably include. I'll just put my PSN name in the description or something like that.
I mean,
so
you can
that
also,
way you can get my guild card, and then you can just look at how beautiful I am in Monster Hunter. Anytime
We're
you want.
not only doing that to get the 50 guild card trophy. That's not why.
It doesn't hurt. Just to quickly mention, we do have a Discord server open for everybody. If you want to join us there, you can get that from our website, breakroomarcade.com. We'll probably have that the share link for you to join somewhere eventually.
There's
now,
a join
definitely it's on our
server
website.
button on the site, right?
Yeah.
There
If
is,
you go
yeah.
down to the bottom, there will be a little Discord widget with a join server button.
So if you want to chat with us here at the Breakdown Podcast, you want to give us suggestions, or you just want to hang out, that's the way to do it. I always have it open on my phone, so if you message us, I'll try and be in there when I can. And yeah, hopefully we can build up a nice fan base of people that are in there and can hang out with us.
We can all hunt together.
Yeah. Maybe we'll even have a Mario Kart 8 tournament.
Oh boy.
It's been a while since I
do decent at that. And by decent, I mean terrible.
So quickly, some other games I've been playing. I've been playing Oxenfree on Nintendo Switch, which I've had for a long time, and I just haven't opened yet.
Yeah, that's funny because you bought that when I said it was on sale, right?
Yeah, we bought it at the same time.
Right. Yeah, I I was really liking that game. I haven't gotten back to it because other things came along,
I think I'm an hour and a half in. It is definitely a narrative game.
Quick question: what is Oxenfree?
It is a point-and-click adventure game, which is fully voice acted. The conversations between characters, you can respond with 2 to 3 different response options. I don't know how much that affects the game thus far, but basically you go on a vacation on this island with some friends, and you're going to drink and do all those adulty things that college kids think they do. And it's some things go wrong, and you have to save your friends. I won't say any more than that, but was this a mobile game? It feels like this would have been a mobile game to me.
I have no clue.
But it's
I'm gonna hit Google right quick.
It's got really good atmosphere.
Yeah.
The voice acting is also really solid.
It's very superb, and the way that dialogue chains together is it feels very intelligent to me. I can't tell for sure if this is happening, but sometimes like I'll accidentally interrupt a piece of dialogue by looking at something. But after I look at that thing and they talk about the thing I looked at, they'll go back to what they were talking about before. And that's something that The Last of Us does.
She was on Android and iOS.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, it's a point-and-click adventure game. Pretty adult-heavy themes. Like Logan said, voice acting's pretty good. Don't really know how long it is, but I anticipate that I'll have a good time with it, because reviews have been pretty strong. Let's see, other than that, I gotta go to my list here. My wife's been playing Kingdom Hearts, and I keep telling her how bad I think that first game is. Sorry, Kingdom Hearts fans.
We're not saying we hate Kingdom Hearts. I agree with Brandon, actually. Like, I forced myself to finish that game because I wanted to play 2. And the only reason I would go back to play it is so that I could go back to playing 2 and kind of follow the story.
It's just like a lot of the design decisions in Kingdom Hearts are now dated and very archaic. So games that we've played today have probably spoiled, at least for me, it probably spoiled the way I perceive it.
I don't necessarily have a problem visually with it. It was just like...
No, I mean mechanically.
I was going to say, like, the controls I felt back then were very clunky. Now with the, like, re-release, I think they actually, like, fixed my camera complaints.
Yeah, it's on the stick
beyond
now.
that, like, it's still the story was kind of cardboard to a degree, where I feel like they really expanded it, made it very dynamic in 2. So Kingdom Hearts is the game I play so I can play 2 again.
Basically, I'm waiting for Michaela to finish Kingdom Hearts so that I can kind of participate in Chain of Memories and beyond. I just want to get that first one out of the way, because
how is she currently playing it?
She's playing the PS3 1.5 HD remix.
Okay.
And that has Rechain of Memories and a movie cutscene version of 358/2. Basically, I promised her that if she gets through 1.5, all of 1.5 and all of 2.5, that I'll buy 2.8 for her, and then once she beats 2.8, I'll buy Kingdom Hearts 3 so she can play that. I kind of take command over the PS4 because it's at my station, like my gaming station in the basement, so I want to make sure that I get some games that she's more apt to play than myself. I'm trying to spread the love a little bit.
You sweetheart.
Oh, I'm trying. Yeah, as far as gaming goes, that's really all I've done. We did have plans last night to play Naruto Taboruto Shinobi Striker, the open beta, but the open beta is actively on fire right now, so not really anybody's been able to play it, so that didn't come to fruition.
Gotta love betas.
The same thing happened to Dragon Ball FighterZ beta, and both of those games are developed by Bandai Namco, so...
Actually, fun fact about the FighterZ beta, I never actually played a versus match.
Did you only do the
entire
training?
time it was... Yeah, just did the training.
I did a couple versus matches, because I knew like the collection of gamers that were probably playing it weren't necessarily fighting game fans. And that turned out to be true in the end.
Going back to Naruto real quick, we're gonna keep our eyes on it, and if we can see that it's actually working, hopefully we can bring you a little taste of that.
Yeah, and we'll be streaming that. I'm really interested in this game because it's not just a fighting game. It's a 4v4 online objective-based competitive multiplayer game, which does have fighting in it. But basically, it's a little bit like Xenoverse in the way that you can customize your own character. You can make your own ninja, say what village that ninja was born in, and customize it from there. The customization options in the beta itself are pretty limited right now. They don't give you a lot of options.
Monster Hunter was the same way.
Yeah, so obviously that'll be more diverse when the game actually comes out. I still don't think it has a release date yet. But essentially, the mode that's available in the game right now is available on 2 different maps, one based on the hidden village in the leaves, and one based on the sand village. And it's 4v4 capture the flag. And I think you have to capture your opponent's flag 3 times in order to claim victory. And basically, you have a health bar, you have a selection of attacks that have a cooldown period. So like Rasengan, you can have Rasengan and use that, and it has a cooldown period before you can use it again. This game's very mobile. You jump around a lot. You can run on walls, which is really cool. Any wall in the game you can run on, which I think is really awesome. So not only do you have battles that take place horizontally, but you can have very vertical battles as well. And as Paul said, that is very rooted in Naruto, so that's pretty cool.
Climb the tree. Use your Katra.
Your Katra and your feats.
It protects you.
After like 15 years of Naruto fighting games, it's nice to have a game that's not trying to be a fighting game. This is a game that is actually taking notes from how things work in the anime. You know, they're not fighting to fight. They're fighting because they're trying to complete some kind of objective. So now they're bringing the objective to the forefront, which is really cool. So we'll give you our opinions on that as soon as we're able to actually play it. Yeah. And then Luigi's Balloon World just came out on Super Mario Odyssey. I've not gotten a chance to touch that yet. Did either of you get a chance to play that?
No.
I've heard reception has been pretty positive so far.
Yeah, I was listening to some podcasts and they were talking about it, and it it sounds like they really took their time to really make it an extra special experience. It's a smaller experience, of course, but I think that's cool, and I think it's also telling of what we're still going to get from Super Mario Odyssey. We're not done with Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah. I sent you a video, Logan, a couple days ago, I think, of Josh Thomas over at Nintendo Beyond giving his reasons that Super Mario Sunshine DLC will be coming. Yeah, and I'm not. Makes sense, and I thought that was really interesting. But regardless of what this DLC will contain, I think it's all but guaranteed that we are going to get some paid DLC. And the developers have already expressed that they are open to the idea of DLC. And that could mean that they've already started developing DLC.
No,
I need to go back to this title.
The fact that they have developed this small thing. So here's a little extra game that we're gonna throw in here. That'll give you some extra things to do, and here's some extra costumes. I think we're gonna get some more substantial DLC down the line. I do anticipate that I'd be paid, but I also wouldn't think I wouldn't put it past Nintendo just to release some larger updates for free as well.
For sure.
Because this is hands down the best selling game on the Switch. Any way they can find to give this game even more longevity, the better it's going to do.
It would be silly for them to not take advantage of that fact.
Right. I mean, if from a monetary standpoint, adding more content so more people buy the base game, or people who already have the game paying, $20-$30 for paid DLC, it's kind of a win-win-win for everybody. We get more content that at this point we don't mind paying for because we've got our $60 worth. Also, they didn't announce it beforehand. That had, that's a trend in the gaming industry that I think is a really bad trend, as people tend to announce that, hey, we got DLC in the works even before the game comes out. And it's even if you have the potential for DLC, generally when it's talked about before the game even comes out, people are like, well, could this have been in the game from the start? And so you're cutting content so we can just pay for it later. It isn't always the case. It is pretty much always the case with something like EA. It's oh, let's give them an incomplete game and then make them pay for the rest of the full game. But Nintendo, that hasn't really happened with them yet.
In most of their DLC offerings, it's always been fair. You can tell that you've gotten a complete game first. Breath of the Wild did get some flack for announcing its DLC before the game came out, but that game was done.
I mean, the fact that I was able to get 100 and 50 hours or something like that out of the game. And that game had a long development cycle, and you can tell there was a lot of content, and you could play that game forever.
Collectively, the DLC for that game, I think, gave me like an additional 30 hours of gameplay.
Not bad.
Paulie, I think you were going to say something.
I was just going to ask, offhand, do you guys know your playtime for Mario Odyssey?
Super Mario Odyssey?
40 hours flat, I think.
Okay, then I don't feel quite as bad.
Yeah, I want to say mine's around 40 hours. It might be upwards of 50.
And my 40 hours is with every moon collected.
Mine is not. I do not have every moon.
A quick confession. I was checking last night, and my playtime's like 15 hours. And I was like, man, that feels really, really small. Why haven't I played more of this?
Well, I mean, you've finished the main story, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was at 200 of the moons? Stars?
200 of the moons? Yeah, see, that's the thing about the game is you can finish it easy, 10 to 15 hours.
Yeah.
But I think it took me about 30 hours to finish it because I did a lot of the collecting.
It's really hard to, like, buckle down and, like, go to the actual objective because there's just so much to explore, so much to find.
The thing with Odyssey is, while that's true, the game really, like, encourages you just to get the story out of the way. It's like, hey, get this done because the game doesn't start until you're done.
Yeah, there's a lot of post-game content.
Well, the majority of the moons, like in each kingdom itself, don't even open up until you've beaten the game.
Right.
So it actively encourages you to finish the story first.
Yeah, but that being said, like, it also doesn't try to necessarily rush you.
No.
You know, it's just the game is very much like take it at your own pace. And I needed that experience. I think back to back, like I remember like, oh, I'm playing lots of Breath of the Wild, and then like Breath of the Wild finished up, and then not too much later here was Super Mario Odyssey, and then that game came around, and both games made me cry.
Yeah, I think I got misty-eyed in a couple places in Odyssey.
It's a good game.
Really good first year for Nintendo. Are there any other games we have to talk about before we move on?
Yes.
Okay. Give us the lowdown, Paul.
First off, I did not put near as much Monster Hunter hours in this week as I wanted to. That is because, well, one, we've been really busy doing stuff for this podcast, but also I sat down to finish Celeste story mode. And I've talked about this last week, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but you guys need to play this title. Please play it. Do it for yourselves, man.
You're making a review for this, right?
Yep, I recorded it this morning. I got probably a lot of editing to do because I rambled a lot. And so I gotta bring it all together on the editing board. But hopefully sometime in the next week or so I can have that available for all of you beautiful people to watch.
Very nice.
And hopefully convince you to pick it up and play it. The other major thing that I started working on this week was Bayonetta. And I don't know what's going on. What is going on?
That's Bayonetta.
Yep. I mean, I enjoy it so far. It's just I cannot predict where this story is going. I think I'm like 3 chapters in, or I'm at the beginning of the 4th chapter, and I just don't know what's going on, and I enjoy it.
Bayonetta, just so you know, Paul, will explain itself before you're done. You will understand what's going on by the time you're done.
I figured it would. It's just like starting off, it really just kind of throws you into the middle of it.
Yep.
And
pretty much.
Which is a fun place to be.
One of the things about Bayonetta I absolutely adore, and I hope you agree with me on this, Paul, the battle music is incredible.
I actually haven't really paid too much attention to that, but I mean,
it's like Japanese
pop. I
pop.
didn't notice it, so I can't, it's not like I'm saying it's terrible. It just didn't stand out to me.
Pay attention to it next time you play it, because it's just it's a vocal piece, and it's pretty good. In Super Smash Brothers, they had to remove the vocals from the game from the music for the game, and I was very disappointed by that. They do the same thing in Bayonetta 2 with a new song, and I hope that happens again in Bayonetta 3. I love it. My weeaboo stuff.
I'm really looking forward to getting through this and starting the second one. I feel, to a slight degree, I can feel its age when playing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an old game by now.
I mean, despite that, it's still really fabulous.
And I look forward to seeing how your opinions of Bayonetta 2 once you get to that point. Because you can definitely see the improvements in all areas of that game. Any other games to mention before we move on?
That's it for me.
Yeah, I haven't. It's just been Monster Hunter for me.
So I'm in the process of working on a project. It's actually initiating today. I've gotten a couple phone calls since our podcast has begun. I'm guessing about the project I'll be working on. I'm building a board game table. This is going to be an all-purpose table overall. We'll be able to convert it into a dining room table at whatever point. But I got the game Gloomhaven, which is a 22-pound box of all kinds of stuff that you need to play this game. And I'm like, I don't think the table I have is really going to cut it for this. So I went online and I started searching for board game tables to kind of fill that need. And the ones that I really thought would fulfill my desires were like $800 and up.
Oh boy.
No, sir.
So I started searching DIY table designs, and I found a very good thread on Board Game Geek, which has a vaulted board game table design that I absolutely fell in love with. So I've decided that I'm going to build this. We're buying the lumber for it today. We're building a 5x5 table that's going to have a railing on the outside, like a 5.5-inch railing. The railing is going to have cup holders and dice trays built in. So there's a vault. So after the railing, it dips down about 3.5 to 4 inches so that when you roll dice, they don't fall out of the table. It's easier to reach things because you can reach down into the table rather than over it. It's also going to have outlets and electricity built in. There will be an outlet on each side of the table with USB ports so people can charge their phones.
Fancy.
It will also allow people to keep their phones alive for games that might require more data management. Gloomhaven, actually, you have character sheets. It's a lot like D&D in that way. But there are also apps out there that can fulfill that need, so people can plug their phone in and use their app if they prefer to do that instead. Huh. So we'll build a cover. The cover is going to go over the vault on the table, so it can be used as a dining room table. And that's basically it. So I'll be building this table out of wood, staining it, and hopefully completing the entire project before Monday.
I look forward to playing on it.
Me too. I've had Gloomhaven for like 2 weeks, and I haven't really done anything with it.
That heavy box just sitting there calling to you.
I know. I want to play it. So I'm actually going to do a video series for this. I will document the creation of the table and maybe release it in 2 or 3 parts. You'll see us building it. You'll hear me talking about it. You'll get a good look at the final design, as well as a demo of a game being played on it. So look forward to that. I am very excited to bring that to you guys. Along with that video, I'll give you guys a link to the original forum post thread that I got all this information from. So if you are feeling inspired, maybe you can build your own. So that's what I'll be doing here in the next couple days. Hopefully we finish it before the end of the weekend. I'm very excited. I've never built anything before. My wife is...
I hope it gives you a sense of accomplishment.
My wife, for those who don't know, does a lot of tech theater. She has a lot of experience building and carpentry. So actually, my wife will be taking the headline role on this project. Hi there in the comments. So we're defeating gender roles. I'm the guy who doesn't know how to use a power tool.
Nice.
So we'll be working on that. And I think we're ready to move into our main topic.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
So last week we told you we were going to talk about Nintendo in 2018. We're right at the end of February, and there's a lot we don't know. So To get things started, I'm going to pull up our little Google Doc. So 2017 was a big year for Nintendo. How exactly are they going to top that? Things that we know are happening. We know that Kirby's coming next month. We have a Yoshi game coming. Fire Emblem will be releasing this year. There's a Metroid Prime 4 coming. A Pokemon Core title coming. Those are not necessarily games that'll be in 2018. We don't know yet. They're releasing their online service in September of 2018. That's about all we know as far as the rest of the year is concerned. So, E3 is just a few months away.
Oh boy.
Gentlemen, we'll start with Logan on this one. What does E3 need to deliver to you for 2018 to be a successful year for Nintendo?
This is quite a tough one, because currently what we know is coming. My main concern is how are they going to fill out the rest of this year, right? Mm-hmm. We have a good amount of ports that we know are coming in the next few months, which is fine. Like, we just honestly, it hasn't been that long since we got like Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah,
and Has Kirby come out yet?
Kirby comes out in the middle of next month.
Okay, because I know that'll be like the one game I know is like coming. And we also got Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in like December.
And we got Bayonetta 1 and 2 this month.
Right, but Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is an original title, whereas Bayonetta 1 and 2 is technically a port. Well, it is a port of a game that probably not a lot of people have gotten a chance to play because it was released on the Wii U. So I think that does make it the value proposition, a little bit more enticing. And then we have Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze, which actually I'm much more excited for that than I am for Bayonetta. Because I'm a huge platformer. And for the first time in my life, this past week beat Donkey Kong Country, the original, for the first time. I had gotten to like the last boss like a few weeks ago, and then I just kind of put it down because like I beat like the beginning section, and then it pulled like, oh, here's the credits, and then it's like, wait, no, the battle's not over, and then I died, and then I just got super upset, and I just put it off for a few weeks.
I was shocked you didn't know about that.
Yeah, and well, I know about it now, but then I finally got around to being like, okay, I'm gonna friggin' beat this thing, and it took me a few tries, but I finally beat King K. Rool, and like that was like, I did it. I finished the game. It was a struggle for a bit, but I did it, and I feel accomplished. But I'm excited for Tropical Freeze, and I'll probably pick that up once it releases. But how are they going to fill out the rest of the year? Or is there? I wouldn't put it past Nintendo to have one or two larger releases, things that are like Kirby is like, oh, cool, another Kirby game.
We needed one. We needed one more of those. We haven't gotten near enough Kirby titles in recent years.
To Kirby's credit, this will be his first home console title since Return to Dreamland. Right.
And I think I might pick up Kirby at some point. But like, what for everybody else? You know, we have Bayonetta, and some people will make the dip into that. But what's their killer title for this year? I do not think that we will go through the rest of 2018 without seeing one major title that everybody's going to be talking about. I think there's going to be one. I'm tempted to say that it's either like a deluxe port of Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS. But I think the longer that it goes, the more likely it is that we get like a Splatoon 2 type of deal. And I think with something like Smash Bros, I think that's okay because there's already so much content in those games, and I think we'll get Super Smash Bros, and it'll be a different game. It'll be the next game. It'll Super Smash 5. And I think it'll include most of the characters of what we had in the last game, and I think they might throw in some extra characters, some first party. I'm hoping to see like the Inklings. I think that's just something that needs to happen at this point, and then maybe another third party character or two, and then we'll see that released. And I think that might be the big game for this year. I think other than we know we're getting Fire Emblem. Unless that gets pushed back to 2019, I think we'll see. We will definitely see Fire Emblem this year.
That's a fall title. I'm fairly certain that's a fall game.
Yeah, I think it'll be a fall title. I think we'll see it at E3. Whether we see it like actual footage before then. I think that might be pretty likely. I think I wouldn't put it past Nintendo.
There's a good chance we're going to have another Nintendo Direct before we get to E3.
Oh, yeah.
We do.
I would like to, I think a lot of people were anticipating it in February because of past patterns of Nintendo Direct Minis and stuff like that. But obviously it's Nintendo, and they're not just going to follow a pattern just because
they do what they want.
They do what they want. So I'd say maybe in the next month and a half, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an actual full Nintendo Direct, and the premiere game that we see there would be Fire Emblem. But I would like to see Super Smash for this year. Regarding E3 and future content, though, I think a lot of people are anticipating that we'll see Metroid. I don't think we'll see Metroid this year.
No,
I think Nintendo will go dark on Metroid until at least 2019.
To follow up your thoughts on Smash Bros, we did have a recent rumor by Emily Rogers, who, from what I can tell, hasn't said a lot since the Switch launched. So the fact that Emily Rogers has come out even said anything, I think, is significant in the first place, because she has a very, very strong background in terms of things that she's gotten right. She says that Smash Bros is coming before the end of the year. Will be announced. I think she said it would be announced at E3. I could be wrong on that, but she said it'll come out before the end of the year. It'll feature Wii U and 3DS content with some tweaks and additional content on top of that. So I feel like that kind of fits the description you were kind of given there, Logan.
Yeah, and I think I definitely seen that rumor. So I think I agree with that. That sounds about right. Not like that I have insider knowledge, but it's something that I'd expect from Nintendo. I think from the next Smash Bros. Game, in addition to if they just took everything from the 3DS versions and the Wii U versions of that game and then tweaked it a little bit, improved upon it in whatever logical ways they can, and then maybe add 2 or 3 new modes. One of those modes is I would really love an actual really compelling story. If there was something that they could spend their time doing, give us a fun, a subspace emissary kind of thing.
Yeah.
But maybe something a little bit more thought out, and maybe something that'll tease future releases. Maybe they have an F-Zero game in the works, and so maybe they're like, oh, well, there's going to be this whole subplot about, Captain Falcon and stuff like that. I think that might be really neat. I'd love to see how some of their older franchises that they haven't touched in a while will evolve, and become something new and something more ambitious. That's something I anticipated going into something like Star Fox Zero, and it didn't do a whole lot extra. Just here's a bunch of old ideas that we did in these old games that never got released, and then we're just gonna make a new game out of it. And it's are you even trying, Nintendo? And obviously they are trying, because we got Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey.
To be fair, that was Wii U, so obviously it had to turn out the way it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think they have a lot of motivation and they have the freedom to take chances now because of how successful the Switch has been. So I hope that really actually makes a difference in what they do with some of these franchises. And I also am hoping, I think we might, I would like to see one new IP like every year, whether it be something small, and then maybe some larger ones. Obviously, a larger one we got in recent years was Splatoon.
Yeah.
So I think if there was any time to release like a new big IP, it might be this year. You know, hot off the heels of the fantastic 2017 that Nintendo had. And it might be a good time to be like, okay, here's a bunch of ports and here's a few safe calls that everybody wants. And then here's another new game. I'm not sure if it'll be like, more narrative driven game or, an online experience or something like that where, they're going to be launching the online in the fall. And so maybe there's an extra game that they're going to be launching alongside of that, maybe another, really online focused game.
And I think Paul made the call on that one. I definitely think that's going to be Pokemon. But that's just me. I do think.
I mean, they said Pokemon's coming 2018, right?
When they announced Pokemon in 2017's E3 presentation, they said Pokemon will be coming in a year or later. Were the exact words that they used?
Okay.
And well, that would qualify 2018 as a possibility. Pokemon games have usually been pretty online driven. They've definitely been expanding upon those features in the last few games, specifically on the 3DS. Nintendo Switch obviously is a much more powerful hardware, and I think the possibilities are a lot more expansive than what we've had before. So
I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with that title.
Yeah,
with the newer capabilities of the Switch versus the 3DSs that it's been on for years.
Well, even with the online, I feel like the fact that they're launching online in September is very telling that Pokemon might be the reason that it got delayed. That or Smash Brothers. They might be delaying it to prepare a game to launch alongside it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a real possibility. Wow, you got me re-excited for Pokemon Switch. Because I'm kind of a passive Pokemon fan. Like, I find it hard to sit down and actually finish some of those games. I still haven't finished Pokemon Y. I still haven't finished Pokemon Sun.
I haven't finished Sun either.
And I think partially it's because it's on the 3DS. Like, as I've gotten older, the whole handheld thing's a little less appealing, and I like being able to sit down and play my games on a TV. I like when I can be really engrossed in something that's really graphically intense, and really pretty and clear. And so, with the Switch, that's definitely a possibility. I'm super excited to see how visually this affects the visual design of Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because it started out and it was oh, look here's these 8-bit
and
figures.
This could eliminate the need that people have for a Pokemon Stadium title, because the only reason they wanted that is so that they could play Pokemon on their TV with pretty graphics.
Oh yeah, no, we'll get some fights within a stadium in this game. You know, that'll be a thing. I guarantee there'll be oh, here's a huge ass stadium, and they're gonna fight in it, and they're gonna do all this other stuff.
Now that we have Pokemon coming on Switch, it'll just completely eliminate the need for a secondary title that does that, because it'll all be there already.
Yeah, so I'm really fascinated because they've always played to the hardware pretty well. They always do something very cartoony, because it's always been on very limited hardware. But I wonder how much it will change, just based on the fact that we're a minimum 720p. you know.
The things I expect to change, like I think the battle system is probably just going to be the battle system. That's probably not going anywhere. But just like the way that we interact with the world, the way we traverse the world, the way we perceive the world, I think is all going to be brand new. I think we might even like stop using that overhead view. We might come down to level like with our characters a bit more.
Right. No, that's actually something that I was considering. It's like, you know, we've done this overhead view, which works. But now that we have so much more freedom in what they're developing with, how is that going to evolve? And I honestly have no clue, especially coming from, you know, the Pokemon company and from Nintendo. It's like they could go anywhere.
I'm gonna be right back. Sorry, guys. Gotta step aside for a second.
Oh, into the potty break phase. One of the games that I anticipate will come this year, and I really, really earnestly hope that this happens, is Animal Crossing. I am starved for Animal Crossing on Switch.
This is like the longest break that we've had since the launch of the original Animal Crossing. Like,
and you know, they've been putting Animal Crossing games on the console and then again on the handheld, and we're finally in a situation where we fulfill both of those needs at the same time. So who knows what they could do with Animal Crossing at this point? I just want to know. Give it to me.
Yeah, and like they really stepped up the game with like New Leaf and stuff like that. And I think, you know, just like, hey, we can figure out like more ways to interact with, you know, give players more control of what they're doing with their town. And again, now that we're going back to like a home console that's also, you know, an HD console, the last home console game we had was City Folk, and it was really underwhelming. And then we got New Leaf, and we're like, oh, this is so much better. And now we have this like marriage of handheld and a home console and the power to do whatever. Like, how else am I going to be able to interact with the world? How are we going to be able to interact online? You know, because that's a big component, is like, well, not a huge component, but you can go and you can visit each other's towns. So like, can I go into your town even if you're not on, you know, and maybe it's persistent?
Yeah.
And I can do things in your town, and you know, what else are we going to be able to do?
I'd like to see a way for us to live all in a town together and live in one town as a unit. I think that'd be a really cool way to kind of bring it into the multiplayer and push the franchise forward.
Yeah,
that'd be a definite step forward.
Oh my God! Now you got me thinking. Now my mind's just racing. I'm a huge fan of Animal Crossing. I put like 200 hours into New Leaf.
I think we could like get rid of the idea of the city maybe altogether and just make the towns bigger. Because if we're all living in the same town, if we just live in a bigger town, there's more animals there living, more types of stores and places for us to go. If they centralize that, I think is where I'm getting. If they centralize all of those things, I think they can make Animal Crossing feel like a brand new experience.
Yeah, and so maybe that's why we haven't seen it yet. Maybe they're still cooking ideas. Maybe they're still finalizing, like, now that we have all these possibilities, especially, you know, now maybe that's the game that launches with the online.
That's a possibility.
Maybe paid online is going to be like, well, now that we have, you know, people paying for online, we can do this. You know, we can make sure we can do something that's more hefty and persistent in the cloud. That will make these kinds of ideas that we want to pull off for this game possible. And so maybe that's why we haven't seen it yet. Maybe they're still like, okay, I think we got this. And maybe they finished it and we just don't know what they're going to do, you know?
How likely do you think it is that we'll see Animal Crossing this year?
I'm a pessimist, so not very likely. I think
in my mind, if we don't see Animal Crossing before E3, I don't think it's happening. Animal Crossing is not a game you show at E3 because it doesn't show well.
Right.
Animal Crossing is going to have its own dedicated direct, or maybe they throw it into a Nintendo Direct, because E3 is not the place for that kind of game. You don't understand Animal Crossing until you've sat there and you've played it, because it's not that kind of like action-oriented experience where everything is easy to digest immediately. Animal Crossing is something you digest over time. So I think if we don't see it before E3, I would be unsure that we get it this year at all.
Yeah, I think Nintendo is working a ton behind the scenes. And I think they're very careful about when they're announcing certain information. I think they're allowing it to, like, okay, we're aiming for this, but we don't want to announce it before, because maybe we want to give the devs a little bit more time, because we want quality games, and we don't want to, unnecessarily give anybody some unnecessary hope that a game is coming sooner rather than later, because we want to give the devs enough time and space to make the kind of games that they want to make, and make the kind of games that are going to sell and engage and be, they're going to push forward, because that's what Nintendo tries to do. They're not just trying like, oh, we're going to put more power into our console. No, it's like, okay, we want to change the way people play, and I think they do that not just with their hardware but with their games. Just look at Breath of the Wild. They're like, okay, no, take your time with Breath of the Wild. We will delay that game indefinitely until it is at a place where people are like, yeah, no, this is the game we wanted to play. And you saw that with Odyssey, and you saw that with Breath of the Wild. And I think they're taking that attitude and that approach because it pays off. Nobody's worried about if Nintendo's going to fail, and those who are, they're just in some sort of weird echo chamber that they're just hearing themselves over and over again, that Nintendo's doom or something like that. Nintendo is more confident than ever, and I think that gives them a freedom to think clearly. It's like, we shouldn't just release games willy-nilly. We have enough firepower right now where we can have a steady stream of content, and people are still buying the Switch for Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey.
And they're building income in other ways now, like with mobile titles, the theme park that's coming, and the movies that will be coming out.
And yeah, exactly. So they're diversifying their investments, and all of a sudden they just like, oh, okay, we don't have to worry anymore. And so I think with their game fronts, they're like, okay, we need to make sure we don't have another Animal Crossing Amiibo festival. I think the world would have been better off if that game were just never released.
If that had never happened, yeah.
Like, oh, it's literally just taking up space now,
Mm-hmm.
They just wanted something to release it with, Amiibo, and stuff
Such
like
a
that.
Wii U move to make.
Right. They're just trying to, oh shoot, how do we make money to stay afloat, And I think now that they've started to figure that out, again, it takes the pressure off of them trying to just release games. So I think Nintendo is going to tell us a lot less, but what they do tell us is going to be a lot sweeter.
Very well said. Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree. Paul, so I've asked Logan kind of what he wants to see. What? Let me phrase it like this: What does it take for you this year for Nintendo to be as successful or more successful than last year?
Well, Logan touched on the rumor a bit both of you guys touched on the rumor that Smash Bros. In 2018, and that alone would make the whole year for me. That is all I need from Nintendo to be happy in 2018 is just Smash Bros. Alongside their their online service. I personally kind of doubt that we'll see it as much as I want it. I feel like they're not going to roll out Smash Bros. Just to spite us,
Well, is
They're
that
like,
because
that guy Paul, he was talking about Smash Bros. And
I want Smash
know.
Bros. So bad that they're just going to I'm going to leave them frustrated.
Now, do you think that's because they're making a new game, or how?
I personally hope that they're making a new game. I would take a port. in a heartbeat. I would take a port of Wii U and 3DS, and especially if they add new stuff. I don't think they necessarily need to make a new game there. The last iteration was really, really solid, a lot of fun. Probably, like, for me, it's the best in the series so far.
Yeah, me too.
And so I wouldn't mind them keeping that and just adding more content and keep rolling out more content, or if they combine like the 3DS stages with the Wii U stages and give us all of that, that's also worthwhile to me.
Yeah, I think, honestly, just real quick to interject, is I think we'll get another Splatoon 2. Regardless of what it is, how iterative it is, it will be billed as a new title.
Oh, you mean by name?
Yes,
okay.
By name, they will differentiate it from, and I think they kind of set themselves up with that, you know, the last entry, which was Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, Super Smash Bros. For 3DS, because I don't think, you know, they're kind of like, what else do we do with it?
Well, what if they...
I feel like they needed something other than that for the title, just because, like, it's really confusing when talking.
Super Smash Bros. Online.
That would work.
What if they take
really
the naming scheme from the previous two titles, Melee and Brawl, and just use another synonym for battle?
That's what I'd like them to do. It was really hard with, like, having two titles that are basically the same game but on different platforms with different names, to, like, talk about Smash 4 as, like, Smash Bros. For Wii U and Smash Bros. For 3DS.
Yeah, we basically just defaulted to calling it Smash 4.
It was easier.
Yeah.
It would have been better if it was just called Smash 4.
Well, I think the name in itself was also a pun. I don't know if Sakurai intended that or not, but we'll see. If they just called this like Super Smash Brothers Scuffle or Super Smash Brothers Battle, I don't care. You know,
just keep rolling with that. Super Smash Brothers Arena. You can keep finding some way to just keep altering it so you get the same idea across. But
yeah,
I'm honestly leaning towards it becoming more of a platform. You know, less of just a game that they're going to be continuing having iterations on. I think it'll be like, again, something akin to Super Smash Bros. Online. That
this is the last Super Smash Brothers game.
Right. And then all we'll do is we'll get different content updates. You know, maybe some of those will be in the form of DLC, but we will see Nintendo start to treat Super Smash Bros. Like Overwatch or PUBG. You know, I'm not ever anticipating a PUBG 2. I'm not anticipating an Overwatch 2, you know. I'm not anticipating a Dota 3, you know.
Super Smash Brothers forever.
That'd be a very appealing way to evolve the Smash Brothers series, rather than just, oh, hey, here's a new game with a couple more characters.
And then think about how the internet has changed gaming in just fundamentally. You know, how we interact on a day-to-day basis, how we present things. You know, there are certain franchises that it makes sense to continue to have iterations, you know, but there's definitely certain games, especially online multiplayer games, that exist much in a healthier environment when there's just, this is it, and then we'll just keep releasing this game. But I think what'll happen is we will get Super Smash Bros., whatever it's called, and it will be the online game. We'll get cloud saves. We will have like accounts. I think you'll have your own Super Smash Bros. Account specifically for all of that data and all of that collections. Maybe it's just through your Nintendo account or something. It's tied to your Nintendo account. But there will be a specific, like, you have your online stuff for that. And then eventually when we get Switch 2.0 or whatever comes out in the future, you will have that game. It'll work on that. And then you can continue playing online for that. And they'll find new ways of just throwing in extra content to keep people coming back. New stories, new game modes, new characters, you know, and they'll just find a way to make it so people just will keep playing this game indefinitely.
I mean, people will always keep playing that game indefinitely.
Oh, of course.
Just so you guys know, Smash 4 is actually bringing more numbers than Melee at EVO consistently. even now.
Because it's the better game. All the Melee heads don't want to admit it, but it's the better game.
It may not be the competitive game they're looking for, but as a game, it is by far the better game. We just need to keep pushing forward. I agree with you. I think Smash as a platform honestly just makes them the most sense for that game series. There's no reason to keep releasing iterations. Like we go from Melee to Brawl. We lose a couple characters. We lose a ton of stages. We add a ton of characters. And we go from Brawl to Wii U. We add those characters we lost back in and then add a bunch of new characters. Why not just keep what we have and just build on that and build on that and build on that?
Yeah. Going back to the topic at hand, looking at 2018, with that online, kind of out in September, just kind of hanging there, it really adds a lot of questions as to what we can expect from this year. And I mean, one of the things I'm waiting for with this online service is Virtual Console, which I've been waiting for forever. There's a lot of titles that I wanted to buy for my Wii U that I'm holding off on, because if I can just wait and get it on Switch, that's where I want to play it. So I'm waiting to find out what's happening with that. Smash Bros, like if you were describing like an online Smash Bros game, that's a very, very appealing way to get people into this service to pay. Have they given an official price for it yet?
$20 a year.
Okay, yeah, that's a very good way to appeal to people to drop the $20 a year to subscribe to the service. One of the things that I want them to do with it, have you guys listened to, I think, last week's Nintendo Voice Chat podcast?
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
there's that very big reveal that like without the cloud saves, it's very easy to lose all of your save data. And so suddenly I'm paranoid that I'm going to lose all my save data. And so I'm really hoping that's a feature they bring.
There's no way that's not a feature. There will be cloud saves. And if there isn't cloud saves, I will have a fit.
They have to tie it to the Nintendo account system. They've built it, they're building on it, and they need to keep adding features to it. They need a reason for people to want a Nintendo account in the first place. And cloud saves, I think, would bring a ton of people to the service.
I imagine there'd be a good amount of people who just wouldn't pay for the online service and they just leave Nintendo entirely just because they wouldn't have cloud saves with that service. And maybe that's one of the reasons they pushed it back, because they're trying to get it right. And so once
I really hope
real quick, during the last investors meeting, one of the things one of the developers said is that we don't have anything to say right now, but the next time we have something to say about Nintendo Switch Online, it's going to be big.
I'm really hoping that, like, right now our current picture is that they're going to reveal this really big game to launch alongside of it. I'm really hoping it's more than one really big game.
They can't just hang on one title and release an entire service for one game.
A variety of experiences for the consumers to play with it. It can't just be like, hey, here's Splatoon and Smash Brothers, and that's the reason why you're paying $20 a year.
How come ARMS and Mario Kart 8 are not on Switch Online app already? Why? They have this app that they released, and they only gave us Splatoon 2 functionality. Doesn't make any sense.
I think that's just because Splatoon came later. Wait, no, ARMS did come later, yeah. Who knows?
I think ARMS came first.
I think they're figuring out a lot of things behind the scenes, and that eventually, like, the curtain's going to open up and everything makes sense. It's already starting to.
One of the things we did find out because of Payday 2 is that Nintendo will not allow games to have voice chat that don't utilize the Switch Online application.
Ew.
That tells me, at the very least, that they want the Switch Online app to be built upon. So that gives me some hope. At the same time, that's an awful decision.
Oh yeah.
I just want to use Discord on my Switch.
At this point, we're probably just going to keep using Discord because Nintendo's current offering just doesn't cut it. Logan, you and I tried the Switch Online app for voice chat, and while the functionality is pretty cool, like if you're playing Splatoon 2 and you end up on a different team than the person you're playing with, it'll cut voice between the two of you so that you can't communicate during that. That's really cool in private battles as well. Like if you just have the teams assigned randomly, you will always get grouped in voice chat with your team. That's cool. Build that
in Discord.
Exactly. Or take up on Discord's offer to help build your app and make it better.
Oh, please. Last thoughts in terms of what I'm hoping for in 2018. I'm really, really hoping that they'll bring a lot of those like outlying franchises that haven't gotten love lately. So obviously my go-to is F-Zero because I love F-Zero and I want to see more of it.
That's another online game that, would be cool.
And another online game that I want to see is Kid Icarus. I need another Kid Icarus. I loved what they dropped, or it was Uprising for the 3DS.
Yep.
Loved Uprising, and I want more of that. I want it. I'm left-handed, and so using the stylus for a lot of the controls was difficult, but I still managed for that game because I loved it that much. I want to see them kind of use the gyro controls of Splatoon to kind of improve on that and make it more playable for people like me. But even if they can't, I want it. I want it.
I want to see a Kid Icarus Uprising port, and I want to see a sequel that use the Splatoon 2 style controls. They actually just added that exact control scheme to Doom, which is awesome. They need to do that with more games.
Need a motion control option.
Yes. And
and it's funny because like that's totally possible on other consoles too.
Yeah,
there's gyroscopes and stuff in like the PS4 controller.
It gives you the kind of movement fidelity that you need in order to play those games effectively. And a game like Doom is an incredibly quick shooter. You have to be very fast to play that game, so playing that on a controller isn't exactly ideal. So playing that with a controller plus motion controls, that's perfect. Why aren't more games doing that? Do it with Kid Icarus, bring it to Switch, and make a sequel. And I think they'll really help sell that idea going forward for other games.
Yeah.
Oh, Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2 also has that functionality, by the way.
Nice.
Yes.
But ultimately, I want to see them kind of in 2018. I want to see kind of a step away from a bunch of ports. I understand like why they have so many ports and why they keep coming. If there's a lot of people who haven't been able to play these games, like it's still appealing. And there's a lot of titles that even though I already own it on a different platform, I want to experience it again on my Nintendo Switch. But one of the last few ports that I want to see come would be Mario Maker. By the time I got that for my Wii U, it kind of died off. And they put it on the 3DS, but...
And then they killed me first.
I'd much rather have that on the Switch. I think that right now, especially with if they can manage to actually have the life cycle of the console be the 10 years that they want it to be, they'd ultimately benefit from having Mario Maker on that system. Or even if they want to remake it and Mario Maker 2 or whatever they have to do, I feel like that is a title that would do phenomenally on the Switch.
With this idea of Nintendo Labo and creation, I think Mario Maker is a given. I think it's coming.
I could see Mario Maker getting a release on the Switch, whether it be Mario Maker 2.0. And I think me and Brandon have talked about this previously about what form Mario Maker could take on the Switch and what they could do with it. And I really want to see more ambitious like structures that you could give people, that people could literally just make a full Mario game if they wanted to. And I could go over here to Brandon's profile and I could be like, okay, I'm gonna play his level set and customize with animations and a little cutscenes and stuff like that. And then I could also see them releasing it with like a stylus that would work on the Nintendo Switch.
I have
because
something
that
to
would
add
be
to that as well.
Mario
Maker for controlling Mario Maker on Nintendo Switch, we are losing a pretty important aspect of that with the gamepad. If you want to play the game on your TV and also build, you're either going to have to point and click, or you're going to have to use a joystick, and no one wants to do that. In my mind, Nintendo's been pushing their mobile space pretty hard recently. If they make Mario Maker for Nintendo Switch, I think they should release a companion app that allows you to build your stages on your smartphone, so that you can use your touchscreen controls and interact with it in that way. I think that's an incredibly smart decision. Tons of people have smartphones. It'll garner more interest in the game just for the fact that people see it on the App Store. I think there's a lot of good reasons that they should do that.
They might just build that into their Switch Online app too.
Oh, there you go. That's a perfect way to do that.
I really hope if they do something like that too, that you could just like, I want you to play my level, hit the share button, and send it to your friend.
Perfect. The share system in Mario Maker on Wii U was a nightmare. You had to use Miiverse, and it just was not intuitive at all. And, it ended up destroying Miiverse in the end. So if there's a share button that just, like, sends the stage directly to your friend's system, like, you'd skip the social media aspect. Just go straight to the person that you're trying to send the stage to. That'd be perfect.
Like, even if it just, like, through the app, you send it to this friend, and then the friend just gets a link that they click it, and then, I don't know. More integration with the smartphone and the Switch would be nice.
Yeah.
Especially if they're going to force you to use a separate application on your phone. It'd be nice if you can control certain things on your system.
Yeah. I think that's a smart move. Now that we've said that, Nintendo, they're going to disappoint us by not doing any of what we just said.
That's how life works.
Yeah, I think Mario Maker is a given. I would honestly prefer to see Mario Maker in a sequel rather than just a port. Because like Logan said, there's a lot of things that I'd like to see them add to Super Mario Maker. Maybe release that with a brand new 2D Mario game. Maybe just the brand new Mario game is like built into Super Mario Maker 2. So here's the new Mario game, and then here's this little button you press, and now you're in Mario Maker mode.
Like kind of like a single release that includes, like, they have both of the titles. Like, here's the new Super Mario Bros. Not new Super Mario Bros. New Super Mario Bros. Game, and then also with Super Mario Maker 2.0.
Yeah, makes both of those things clear on the box. Bring those new elements that you add into the new Super Mario Brothers game that is on the cartridge, and add those elements into Mario Maker 2. And you got yourself a really stellar package. That's a very good value for the customer.
Also,
and I think it'll
have some design tutorials.
Yeah, I think also it'll give people, it'll interest people more in a new side-scrolling Mario, since we're all kind of burnt out on those. So that could do a lot of good. Anything else for Nintendo in 2018?
I'm not expecting a lot.
There's one idea that's been in like the back of my mind about the future of the system itself and how they choose to expand it, and I'm really hoping that they never, ever, ever name like a new iteration of it the new Nintendo Switch. That's all I got.
Super
Switch.
Nintendo Switch.
I'd rather have like a numbered iteration thing, like Switch 2.0, Switch 3.0. Something like that.
The Nintendo Switch D4.
Yeah.
Sold.
Well, I think that concludes the discussion for this week, gentlemen. Real quick, you can find our social media links below all of our camera feeds in the video version. I am at Babababs. Logan is at LogiDubs. Paul is at Gunnysaurus. You can find us at the Break Room Arcade on Twitter. You can find us at Break Room Arcade on Facebook, on Twitch, on YouTube, on pretty much everything. You can find this podcast available on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. For all of you audio listeners out there, please subscribe to us, like us, and leave us some feedback. All of that helps us, helps support the show, helps it grow. If you have friends who are into this kind of thing, let them know about it. We broadcast every week, Saturday at 1 p.m. If that ever has to change, we'll let you guys know through our social media channels. Next week, we have a very special episode for you guys. Last week, we mentioned how our friends Josiah Gooden and Isaac Gooden completed their Kickstarter for their video game Vulpine coming to PC later this year. We're going to have them on the show here live, asking them questions about their development time, what it's like developing a video game, how they feel about having completed the Kickstarter for Volpine, where they want to see themselves here in the next year or two. And if you submit questions to us, we'll even ask your questions. So throw some questions in the comments, tweet them at us, or leave them as comments on the YouTube video. So definitely look forward to that.
Also, check out our website. I worked really hard on it, so please.
Yeah, Paul
please
did a lot of work
out.
this week. We all did a lot of work this week, actually, making everything all pretty and nice looking. I want to thank you guys.
Also, join us on Discord.
Oh, yes, join us on our Discord. You can find that on the website. There's a link for it at the bottom of the homepage.
A reason to go.
Yeah.
Look at that.
You can also leave your questions for next week in the Discord server.
And tell us what you're up to.
Yeah, let us know. We might talk about it on the show in a coming episode. We want to thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys who are watching on the video version. We're going to see you next Saturday. Anything else you want to say, boys, before we sign off?
No, I don't have anything to say.
Don't break your backs. Breaking the games. Break time's over. We'll see you next week.